Chapter 232, All by Himself? Chapter 232, All by Himself. Leng Yulan was somewhat unhappy. She had also done her part. Xianxian, at that time, had cut a 5th-level true martial realm guy into a slag, yet this proud sword sect guy actually didn't even mention me. Leng Yulan said with a pout. She and Xianxian had once done special training together, and at this point, they had already become close friends. Although both of their personality was different, they still liked each other in their brief encounter. I'll speak openly then. After entering the southern wasteland, as long as anyone dare to move against Chen Xiang, don't blame me for not being polite. If I came to know, humph, I'll not hesitate to move the whole elder courtyard and annihilate his sect. Gu Dongchen said in an ice-cold gloomy voice carrying slaughter chi, deterring many of the people present. Now Chen Xiang had a bounty of 15 million crystal stones, and Gu Dongchen was also worried that some other sect's disciples would move against Chen Xiang while inside the southern wasteland. He just warned them. Besides, what he spoke was completely determined to follow up. If Chen Xiang was truly attacked by righteous sect disciples, he would absolutely annihilate their sect. A part of people standing dispelled the idea of moving their hands against Chen Xiang. In their eyes, Gu Dongchen was a god of slaughter-like character, because they believed in the Black Tortoise mysterious realm, the Beast martial sects Dean and many Nirvana realm type. OONS there had been Ma's sacred by Gu Dongchen. It was why they totally did not held any doubt regarding Gu Dongchen's words. Chen Xiang, you first enter the southern wasteland, be careful, Gu Dongchen said. Yes, Chen Xiang replied. After this word left his mouth, he immediately disappeared, and his speed left some of the deans secretly shocked. All of them looked at the forest at the foot of the mountain, and they only saw a figure leaping on the trees. Chen Xiang exerted a very exquisite qing gong while speedily treading on the leaf. After the disciples saw Chen Xiang suddenly go further away with a schwa, they were completely shocked in their heart. All of them secretly compared themselves with Chen Xiang, and they immediately realized that there was too big of a difference between them and Chen Xiang. Even if Gu Dongchen had not spoken, they would not be stupid enough to actually attack Chen Xiang. It would be simply courting death. Chen Xiang not attacking them would be considered very good. Lu Menger and Hua Xiangyue had their eyebrows twitched after seeing Chen Xiang's hasty disappearance. They originally wanted to exhort Chen Xiang, however, as the occasion was not appropriate, they could not speak with Chen Xiang at all. Just as they wanted to use their divine sense, Chen Xiang had already left. Leng Yulan and Xue Xianxian also nibbled their lips as they looked at the direction where Chen Xiang disappeared. They certainly wanted to be together with Chen Xiang, however, both of them had been arranged as the core of their squad. They knew that they could not be too selfish, otherwise, it would lead to destruction of their squad. We cannot fight a lone battle, we should all be together. This is a battle of survival. This not a fight to death, and everybody should be well aware of it. Gu Dongchen said. Now there was still some time before everyone would enter the southern wasteland, and Gu Dongchen wanted to convince the other sects to make them act together. Not good, the Devil Path disciples entered first, and they seemed to be very familiar with the inside. We be fighting against an invisible enemy, if so many encircled them at the same time, it would be very troublesome. The Lotus Islands Master said. Lu Menger also nodded her head. Master Lien is right. I think we should act in accordance with the training and spread out, so that the Devil Path disciples also have to divide their attention to deal with us. Hua Xiangyue said, Fine, but let the disciples keep in contact with each other. Leave a mark or something and converge from time to time. The squads cannot be too far away from each other either. If something happened, then they can also act as support. While the discussion was going on, Chen Xiang had already entered the southern wasteland. Anyone would have a strange feeling after entering the southern wasteland, and there was only a giant canyon as its safest entrance. If someone wanted to enter from somewhere else, then they would have to cross over a few thousand zhang high giant mountain, and in these mountain, they would not only be required to resist the cold, they would also have to deal with some highly toxic poisonous creatures. The southern wasteland was very big. Furthermore, it also had a naturally formed giant mountain range surrounding it tightly. Inside it was even more gloomy. It had many bizarre trees with extremely terrifying appearances. In that canyon entrance, Chen Xiang saw two men wearing a black robe. They had a gloomy complexion, as well as a bizarre, evil aura. With a single glance, it was clear that they were terrifying martial artists from the Devil Path sections. You call this kind of guys devil cultivators? They should be called as evil devils. Bai Yu said with a cold snort. She was also a Devil Path cultivator, however, there was not a trace of hostility on her body. Her cultivation had not advanced by killing a pile of humans. After the Devil Path and righteous candidates were determined, both sides would present their list to another, so that the other party could make arrangement in advance and enter. Brat, are you a righteous sect disciple? What is your name? A black-robed man coldly asked. Chen Xiang. Hearing these two characters, the two black-robed men could not help but stare. They carefully looked at Chen Xiang and gradually, a cold smile appeared on their face. Enter! A black-robed man sneered and said. Chen Xiang flew away and entered the canyon. Little dragon, you cannot be lazy now. Chen Xiang shouted with his divine sense. Rest assured, if you die, I will not have things to eat. Although you are somewhat bad, it is very difficult to find someone stupid like you to live. Long Shui replied in laziness. The southern wasteland was very desolate, and although there were some forests and river streams, they were all shrouded in darkness. These river streams and trees looked black, giving off a jittery feeling. Inside it was very quiet, however. Occasionally, some hair-raising shrieks could be heard. If some timid people came in, they would definitely be scared to death. Chen Xiang, don't you think Lian Mingdong and the Lotus Island's master look somewhat similar? Su Meiyao suddenly asked. Listening to her speak as such, Chen Xiang also felt the same. Besides, he discovered that when they got down from the flying disc, Lian Mingdong's complexion was somewhat strange. The Lotus Island master seemed to be also surnamed Lian. Bai Yu said. While Russ Hi+ing, Chen Xiang suddenly stopped. Zhu Rong had thoroughly checked Lian Mingdong's background, however, now that Su Meiyao mentioned this matter. He could not help but suspect whether there was some relation between Lian Mingdong and the Lotus Island master. Is he the son of the Lotus Island master? Or an illegitimate child? Or because he had poor talent, he was abandoned? Su Meiyao asked. Women always like to snoop on these kind of things. I don't know, wait for me to leave this place, then I'll ask him. Chen Xiang walked towards a forest which was also the most likely place to get ambushed. Chen Xiang was now precisely trying to find the Devil Path disciples to kill. This was the mission given to him by Gu Dongchen and the others. Through the forest, everything was somewhat calm. Any kind of dangerous stuff didn't occur. Chen Xiang changed his own appearance a bit, and he was now in the periphery of the southern wasteland. There was no danger here. If they decided to hide in the periphery, they simply need to defend against the Devil Path disciples. I have always felt that these Devil Path guys have planned something nasty. They went through so much trouble to do something big. Maybe they have arranged a few hundred people inside to ambush. Bai Yu said. Just as her words resounded in Chen Xiang's ears, Chen Xiang suddenly felt some movement all around him. It seemed that he was surrounded. Chapter 233 Puppet. Chapter 233 Puppet. Chen Xiang stood there in silence as he looked all around him. He had heard a very weak sound a moment ago, and Long Shui also said she had sensed people all around him. Above! Long Shui shouted. Chen Xiang raised his head. A large net covering him down came into his view. Chen Xiang pointed his palm towards the net, and a fire column from his palm shot out, burning out a big hole in that net. Chen Xiang coldly snorted. insignificant skill. It should be a spirit weapon, however. After encountering this powerful heavenly sunfire, it could only admit defeat. Shwa! 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 Suddenly 10 black-robed men wearing black hood appeared all around Qin Xiang. Each of them was holding a black executioner's blade, while a noxious aura was being released from their body. It was so dense, as if it was coming out from a pile of corpses. All of a sudden he met 10 Devil Path disciples, and Qin Xiang felt somewhat happy. His purpose to come here was precisely to kill. These 10 guys are weird, you should be careful. I feel they have a strange power, like a kind of strange divine sense. They seem to be manipulated. Long Shui exhorted, her voice sounded very serious. This left Qin Xiang secretly surprised. All these 10 people were actually being manipulated. Now he was even more sure that the Devil Path must have planned something. They didn't give him much chance to think as 5 blades swooped down swiftly and violently. A black chi aura emerged from all of their executioner's blade. When they were hacking down, a piercing sound echoed out, which was then followed by blade chi drawing deep marks one after another on the ground. It was a very powerful attack, however. While they were in the air coming down, Qin Xiang used some mysterious agility technique and jumped in the air just before their blades were about to fall on him. He still had a lingering fear, because according to his estimation, even a 6th-level true martial realm martial artist would be cut down by those attacks. If they wouldn't die, then at least they would be crippled. Very dense devil chi. How the hell did they cultivate? This kind of devil chi could only be cultivated by killing others. Bai Yu sounded uncertain and solemn. Qin Xiang, be careful, this southern wasteland definitely holds some kind of important secret. Just as Qin Xiang jumped into the air, those 5 black-robed men who had not attacked a while ago fiercely jumped up as Qin Xiang fell down. In the blink of an eye they came to his side, and those 5 once again brandished their blade towards Qin Xiang. These 5 actions were the same as before, and they even used the very same kind of chi aura, as if these 5 black-robed men were of the same body. While jumping in the air, Qin Xiang had already started operating his black tortoise true chi. At this moment, the black tortoise Luo Tian cover enshrouded his body, and those 5 blades carrying noxious chi aura chopped down at the same time, bursting out with a very intense power. With them as the center, the chi waves spread across, as if a storm was swooping down on the forest. Qin Xiang landed on the ground. The black tortoise Luo Tian cover on him was actually fine. Although it was a lot thinner, it had completely resisted the attack a while ago. The black tortoise Luo Tian cover was casted out using his 3rd-level true martial realm true chi, and yet it was extremely tough. He was now able to determine that what Long Shui had said before about these 10 people was true. All of them were being manipulated, and that puppeteer's divine sense had a limit. He could not attack Qin Xiang with different methods through these 10 black-robed men. That's why everyone's action was the same, and every time, only 5 of them could launch an attack. This was precisely their weakness, and a very fatal one at that. If he could not resist the attack of these 10 people at the same time, then he would have never found this weakness. Qin Xiang suddenly disappeared. To be exact, he had silently vanished into the forest. With a very quick speed, he shuttled through the forest. Although the speed he broke out with was not lasting, his speed had still reached a point where his figure could not even be seen anymore. Coupled with the convergence of his breath and the help of the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, it was as though he had completely disappeared. Those 10 people were being manipulated, and naturally they could not sense Qin Xiang. Qin Xiang reckoned that the puppeteer was within the vicinity. The 10 black-robed men stood still motionless. It was clear that the puppeteer was waiting for Qin Xiang to appear. He was also looking for Qin Xiang, but because he could not find him, he could only wait, unable to use those 10 puppets at all. Qin Xiang suddenly appeared, and once he appeared, he smacked a palm upon a black-robed man. In succession, He came beside another black-robed man, and one after the other, he smacked a palm on those black-robed men. Almost in the blink of an eye, he was already finished. Those 10 palm Chen Xiang had smacked appeared very common, but he had utilized a very formidable devil technique he had learned not so long ago, the transforming bone devil palm. He was now standing in the center of those 10 black-robed men as each of them gradually fell down. It appeared as if all of them could be folded at will, because all of them didn't have any bone left in them. As they were all puppets, they naturally didn't know any pain, that was why it looked very strange. If these 10 puppets dealt with any ordinary 5th-level true martial realm martial artists, they were more than enough, however, encountering Chen Xiang, they were simply rendered useless. Of course, if Chen Xiang chopped off their hands, or ruthlessly smacked a palm, he could not make these puppets fall down. But now these puppets had no bones, and since the bones were fundamental to the body, although they were all alive, they had already been destroyed. Chen Xiang secretly praised the strength of the devil technique. Before, he had only tried it on some stones, so it was his first time utilizing it on a human now. Found him. Haha, this guy is definitely anxious. He had momentarily become negligent and released a lot of divine sense, revealing himself. Long Shui laughed and said as she immediately told that hidden puppeteer's location to Chen Xiang. After knowing that puppeteer's location, Chen Xiang coldly smiled. He suddenly smacked a palm ruthlessly on the ground, which was then followed by a sudden burst of fierce tremor. All around the trees moved as if they were on the crest of billowing waves moving up and down in the seas. All of it was only because of Chen Xiang's palm, yet everything turned as if a violent storm and roaring waves were surging across the sea. Chen Xiang had used the universe true qi to cast the shocking heaven palm, which had caused the earth to tremble and the mountains to shake. It was incomparably overbearing, causing a large patch of ground to suddenly turn over. Hit! That guy should be spitting blood. Long Shui tenderly laughed and said. That man hid in the ground, and that shocking heaven palm of Chen Xiang even shook the ground across a mountain. Chen Xiang slightly smiled. Facing the ground, he continuously struck that overbearing and terrifying shocking heaven palm. At this moment, the entire southern wasteland had bellows of thunderous noise as if a lightning was blasting out one after the other. Gu Dongchen and the others outside looked at the southern wasteland in surprise. They didn't expect Chen Xiang, as soon as he entered, would immediately make those Devil Path disciples pay. After 10 palms struck on the ground, Chen Xiang's location had been turned into a few hundred zhang deep pit. Chen Xiang also saw a barely recognizable human figure counting his last breath. It was a middle-aged man with blood oozing out from his 7 apertures, having an incomparably hideous appearance. Still not dead? Use the grasping soul devil curse to ask him. Bai Yuyu said. She was very interested in those 10 puppets, and she was also curious at that kind of devil qi. Chapter 234 Human Devil. Chapter 234 Human Devil. After Chen Xiang had completely learned the grasping soul devil curse, his utilization became even more sophisticated. With one hand on that man's head, he chanted some spell, and at the same time, he poured in his divine sense into that man's head. What are those 10 men? Chen Xiang asked. Although the guy was half dead, after Chen Xiang had used the grasping devil soul curse, he suddenly opened his eyes, and with a completely lifeless face, he blandly spoke, Human Devil. Human Devil! Hearing these 2 words, Bai Yuyu exclaimed. Sister Yuyu, do you know what a human devil is? Chen Xiang knew this matter was nothing trivial, or it could not surprise this ice-cold beauty Bai Yuyu. I know, this guy is about to die. First ask him what you want to know quickly, wait for now, I'll tell you about the human devil later. Bai Yuyu replied. Chen Xiang continued asking that man, Are you Devil Path disciples? How many disciples in total do you have? How did you come in here? Yes, there are 50 of us, and we have come here 3 years ago. That man replied. The answer left Qin Xiang frozen for a moment. These people actually came here 3 years ago. Qin Xiang once again asked, in addition to your 50 people, are there any other Devil Path disciples? There's also another 50. The man finished speaking, closed his eyes and died. Although he hid under the ground, Qin Xiang's shocking heaven palm across the thick layer of soil had also caused a great harm to him. Enduring 10 of those palms was already not bad. Qin Xiang coldly said, Devil Path sects are really harboring bad intentions. They had actually concealed 50 people, and besides, they also knew how to manipulate those puppets. Sister Yu, what is the human devil? You first leave here. As you walk, I'll tell you. This place is not suitable for you stay for long. Their people will come here because of the ruckus you've caused. If you encountered some powerful human devil, it will be very troublesome. Bai Yu urged. Qin Xiang immediately started Rus. Hi+ing as he quickly left the forest he himself had devastated not so long ago. He soon entered a big mountain. Human devil itself is a human, but after the absorption of a kind of devil chi, they become very strong, but at the same time, they will also lose their intellect, turning into a devil who only knows how to kill. However, once they are deprived of their divine sense, it can be possible to manipulate them using divine sense. Bai Yu explained. A kind of devil chi? What devil chi? Qin Xiang said in a surprised tone. So wouldn't there be a lot of these kind of things? It's a kind of peculiar devil chi, an extremely evil devil chi which has been precipitating for many years. It is only released after the death of the invaders from the devil domain. In the southern wasteland, a large number of devil domain's people had definitely died here. Bai Yu's tone became solemn. I think some Devil Path sect's disciples must have come here to cultivate and absorb these devil chi, which caused them to be turned into a human devil. And now they are being manipulated by the Devil Path disciples through some secret method. While running, Qin Xiang suddenly came to stop. He looked all around and took a deep breath before speaking. If some powerful spirit beasts came to absorb these devil chi, wouldn't they also become even more powerful and kill humans whenever they see them? Bai Yu responded, the most dangerous part of the southern wasteland should come from these spirit beasts who have absorbed these devil chi. Generally, they are called as devil beasts. Su Meiyao asked, Senior sister, can these devil beasts be manipulated by these Devil Path disciples? Although it is possible, it is very difficult to manipulate them. Spirit beasts are not same as humans. If it was by someone more powerful than those devil beasts, it should be easier to manipulate them. Bai Yu said. Qin Xiang clenched his teeth and cursed, Devil Path, these mongrels, no wonder they still propose to hold a compet. 1. Tian here, they had already entered this place long ago. They have already planned this. No way, I'm going out to tell them. Too late. They should have entered by now. Just a moment ago, I sensed many powerful aura coming from the canyon entrance. It should be those deans who have gathered there. Long Shui said. There were 100 Devil Path disciples in here, and not one of them was weak. Who knows how many human devils they could manipulate? For the righteous sect disciples, this was very adverse. Besides, there was also the threat from those devil beasts, and only G.O.D. knows how powerful they were. They were the most terrifying existence in here, otherwise the Nirvana realm martial artists would not be afraid to come. I need to find them. Qin Xiang, while speaking, ran towards the direction of the canyon entrance. In the depths of this southern wasteland, there are certainly some very powerful devil beasts and human devils. I'm afraid even those deans have no way to manipulate them. Bai Yu said. Long Shui said, Fortunately, there is a natural array which can quell those guys. But once they came out, that would be very troublesome. Su Meiyao suddenly said in a solemn voice, Do you still remember that just a moment ago, they had used a net to deal with Qin Xiang? Under normal circumstances, it should have been a surprise attack. After those 10 people attacked Chen Xiang at the same time, they had used net and moreover, they even exposed themselves. Bai Yu said, "Right, they must have wanted to catch Chen Xiang? Do they also want to catch others? Why?" Long Shui suddenly exclaimed, "Sacrifice." Hearing that word, Bai Yu and Su Meiyao both were shocked speechless. Especially Bai Yu, she immediately coldly said, "Chen Xiang, we must definitely stop these guys. They must be planning to perform a living sacrifice. They must be planning to do it in the cemeteries of those devils from the devil domain. There must be an altar, however, they don't want to open a pas sage to the devil domain. To be precise, they only want the help of some powerful expert from the devil domain to dispel the array here, so that these powerful human devils and devil beasts could break away from the seal. Or maybe, they are planning to awaken a formidable guy." Long Shui added. Their words scared the Hell out of Chen Xiang. If that was the case, even before the three-realm catastrophe arrived, the Chenwu mainland would be finished. He didn't expect the Devil Path sect to actually have such a terrible conspiracy. He should immediately tell Gu Dongchen and the others. Chen Xiang suddenly halted his footsteps. While looking at each and every mountain in front of him, he frowned and said, "Did I took the wrong way? How come I've not seen the canyon yet?" "Wrong. Big trouble, the road is blocked." In the end, what happened? Chen Xiang looked at the ground. He was looking for the mark he left. He discovered he was on right track. Array. Anyone who entered it would have a difficult time to go out. The large formation in here might have been aroused by someone. The southern wasteland is not like this before. As long as someone did not enter the depths, then they could still come out. Su Meiyao said in a heavy tone. Chen Xiang released his vermilion bird firewind and flew towards the sky. But when he touched the black clouds, an evil power suddenly attacked him. He only saw a red lightning falling towards him as he immediately released the black tortoise adamantal armor to resist it. However, from the impact of that strong power, he still pounded on the ground. Very strong restrictive spell. No wonder it could seal those devils, and there must be a way to leave. It seems that now you cannot contact the outside. Su Meiyao said. Chen Xiang cursed, then looked at the ground. He was trying to find the footprints left by others, however, he could not find any, as if they had been covered. These deans are the same as a group of pigs. They have all been plotted by the devil path, but it's us who are miserable. Chen Xiang swore it in his heart, as long he was alive, he would definitely ruthlessly curse those deans without any pause. Chen Xiang was helpless, he could only casually run in a direction. As long as he could meet those devil path disciples, only then could he force out the knowledge he want, and maybe this way, he could also find the way out. I'll definitely drown Lu Menger, this woman, in torrents of curses. She actually allowed Xian Xian and Yulan to come to this kind of ghastly place. Chen Xiang forcefully smiled and said, "Xiao Dao Lao Zhu Squinted Dragon Qianqian. I've harmed you." Chapter 235 Devil Palm's Might. Chapter 235 Devil Palm's Might. Chen Xiang aimlessly ran in the southern wasteland, however. He still left marks here and there, lest he himself get lost. He wanted to find those righteous sect disciples and ask them not to enter the depths of the southern wasteland. If they encountered those powerful devil beasts and human devils, they would certainly meet their doom. "All of you come out. Don't hide, I know where you are." Chen Xiang, just as he entered a mountain corner littered with stones, suddenly stopped. Some people were here to ambush him. It was Long Shui who had told him, because he, Su Meiyao and Bai Yu actually didn't sense anything. It was possible that the concealing ability of these Devil Path disciples was very high, and this made Chen Xiang secretly worried. Even he himself was not able to discover these Devil Path disciples. What about the others? Worthy of the youngest first martial artist of the extreme martial sect. A sound filled with surprise came from behind a boulder. All of them were very confident regarding their own concealing abilities. However, they have actually been discovered by Chen Xiang. At this time, they finally realized that Chen Xiang's reputation was not unearned. A total of 5 black-robed men wearing a mask appeared. They were exactly the same as the guy Chen Xiang had encountered before who was manipulating the human devils. "Are you those people who came here 3 years ago?" Chen Xiang asked, and at the same time, he was also telling these Devil Path disciples that their plans have already been known by him. Indeed, after those 5 black-robed men heard Chen Xiang, they were all secretly surprised. "So you've already met those group of people? Not bad. Indeed, 3 years ago, a bunch of people came here. We came in later though," a black-robed man said. "It seems the man you met is already dead. How much do you know?" Another black-robed man asked. "I don't know much, I only know you can manipulate some ghastly things, and I also know that you Devil Path disciples are all a bunch of mangy dogs." Chen Xiang sneered. Hey, don't curse the wrong people. It's none of our business, we only came to know after coming in. You should curse the people on top of us. To tell you the truth, we don't even know how to manipulate those kind of ghastly things." Another black-robed man said. Chen Xiang was somewhat surprised. These Devil Path disciples appeared to be pretty ethical and fair. However, Chen Xiang didn't let his guard down. "Do you not know that the road we came in had already disappeared? Or is it you are not worried about not getting out? Are you not afraid of encountering those even more powerful ghastly things?" Chen Xiang coldly snorted. "We certainly know, but it's not like we have any other alternative. We only came in to fight with you, we are only responsible to consume your strength, while the other guys are responsible for manipulating those things to kill you," another black-robed man said. Chen Xiang retreated a few steps, put on a false smile and said, "Are you going to attack together, or do you plan to take turns?" "We'll fight you in turns. We all are the strongest and youngest disciples among the Devil Path sections. We would like to experience your righteous sect's most powerful martial artist." A black-robed man stepped forward and took out a black long spear. ABLOODY red aura was Gus. HI plussing out from the spearhead, shooting noxious chi everywhere. It appeared very frightening. Chen Xiang felt that overbearing and bizarre evil true chi and said, "Devil Yang True Chi, Devil Yang Clan, I have already slaughtered a lot of true martial realm martial artists of your Devil Yang Clan." The black-robed man sneered and said, "Don't talk about those trash with me, I'm different from them." Chen Xiang also sneered and said, "In my eyes, you and those trash are no different." His words just fell, before that long spear, which was permeating red noxious chi, stabbed over. It was also very fast, as if a red beam was shot towards Chen Xiang's throat. That long spear directly said through Chen Xiang's throat. That black-robed man didn't expect that he would so easily succeed. However, soon he realized that there was no bleeding from the wound. Chen Xiang's figure burst open and transformed into mist. This was Chen Xiang's water mirror technique. In addition to a high-speed movement, a virtual image was created from mist to confuse his enemy. After that black-robed man realized that he had been tricked by Chen Xiang, he immediately became vigilant. "Humph, this trick is nothing." That black-robed man fiercely turned around, and Chen Xiang had suddenly appeared in front of him. Seeing that leisurely palm strike of Chen Xiang, the black-robed man extended his own palm to meet it with Chen Xiang's, but it was to no avail. On Chen Xiang's mouth, a sliver of proud smile appeared. After the two palms collided, Chen Xiang immediately jumped back as a blood-curdling shriek came from that black-robed man. That arm of his flexibly bent down, it appeared as if it was made of rubber. A moment ago, Chen Xiang had used the transforming bone devil palm, directly melting away the bones in that black-robed man's arm. In that instance, the victim would feel as though ants were gnawing away his bones, and the outbreak of pain was in an instant, causing an excruciating pain. "My arm. What did you do to me? Why don't my arms have any bones?" That black-robed man shouted in madness. His voice was filled with panic. He didn't expect the world would actually have this kind of martial skill. Without even injuring the flesh and blood, the technique actually directly melted away the bones. This martial skill was surely a devil technique. No, it's not really a big deal. In any case, you are going to die. Chen Xiang laughed. In his hand, a black crossbow appeared. It was the demanding life devil bow. As he poured in his true qi, a black arrow was shot out in the blink of an eye, penetrating that black-robed man's throat. The black-robed man gradually fell down as blood kept on gushing from his throat. The other 4 black-robed men were stunned. At the beginning, the black-robed men were so confident, as if they had already won. However, now that death had come so fast, his powerful martial skills and vigorous true qi were already all in vain. He didn't even have the time to display them, as a very small thing had shot through his throat, rendering him to die while basking in his own pool of blood. From start to finish, Chen Xiang was very relaxed. He was talking cheerfully and wittily, and then suddenly, he took away the life of one of the strongest and youngest devil path martial artists. The other 4 could not help but become frightened. At the same time, they realized that they could not look down upon Chen Xiang again, otherwise their fate would be the same as that black-robed man whose throat was still bleeding profusely. Chen Xiang shook his head and laughed. Originally, you had 5 people altogether, and perhaps had the hope to win, however now, too late. While speaking, his figure suddenly vanished, and the world became incomparably quiet. Those 4 men held their breath, in order to probe Chen Xiang's location. However, for a long time, as Chen Xiang's figure didn't reappear anymore, all of them just released their vigorous true qi to form a true qi armor which protected the weakest spot of their bodies. The demanding life devil bow, in the hands of Chen Xiang, if used well, could kill an extreme state martial artist without any difficulty. Those 4 black-robed men thought that if they remained still and wary of their surroundings, they would remain safe. However, at this time, they suddenly felt some true qi fluctuations coming from the ground. They wanted to jump, but soon to their surprise, they weren't able to. They lowered their head and only saw that their feet were wrapped around by some water-like thing. When they thought of using their true qi to disperse it, an intense electric current flowed out from that water vine. The sudden electric shock had rendered their bodies numb, and just as they realized how dire the situation was, Chen Xiang suddenly appeared. Chapter 236 Dangerous Encounter. Chapter 236 Dangerous Encounter. Chen Xiang had utilized the abstruse black tortoise divine exercise and sensed the moisture in the ground. Through that moisture, he poured in the black tortoise true qi and transformed it into powerful water vines. With his divine sense manipulating those water vines, they wrapped around the 4, and then released the lightning force in the azure dragon true qi, jolting the 4 black-robed men. For a short time, those 4 could not compose themselves, and they had no way to raise their guard and defend themselves. Chen Xiang seized this opportunity and took out that domineering azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, horizontally cut towards the 2 relatively closer black-robed men. That one strike had enough true qi, and moreover, those 2 black-robed men could neither move nor resist. That's why Chen Xiang very easily cut off their waist. Once the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade was drawn, that overbearing dragon might rendered the remaining 2 black-robed men to shudder in fear. Chen Xiang naturally knew the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade caused a great deterrent to those martial artists who were cultivating in the devil path. Just the same as by Yu, touching the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade would make them feel uncomfortable. It would be greatly lethal to the individuals from the devil domain, because it could directly break those powerful devil qi. After Chen Xiang killed those 2 people, in a flash, he arrived beside another black-robed man. This black-robed man's feet were still wrapped in water vines, and in his heart, he secretly complained. He was a devil path disciple, but even he didn't have so many sinister tricks. Chen Xiang's tricks just were endless and very hard to detect. However, that black-robed man also had prepared a good defense. Outside his body, there was a thick layer of qi aura s, Hi plus eld. Chen Xiang smiled in contempt before Brandis. Hi plus ing his broadsword. As the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade glittered in azure aura, he fiercely cut across, breaking away that black qi aura s, Hi plus eld very easily, and cutting that black-robed man into two from his waist. Once again, another one died, and the last remaining black-robed man felt endless regret. If they had done as Chen Xiang had said, to deal with Chen Xiang together from the get-go, they would not have fallen into such a miserable condition. Chen Xiang retracted the azure dragon's slaughtering devil blade, and through his feet, he poured in more black tortoise true qi into the ground, so that the water vine would entangle that black-robed man even more tightly, disabling the need to use the lightning force to shock him. As he came in front of the black-robed man, Chen Xiang together extended his palms together as boundless palm shadows whipped over and completely struck on that black-robed man's body. All of them were the transforming bone devil palm. The black-robed man didn't expect Chen Xiang's means to actually be even better than the Devil Path sect. Those attacks could actually cause him to feel such immense pain, as if hundreds of thousands of insects were gnawing his body. He only felt his bones were accompanied by a burning itch, before they slowly disappeared. That man flexibly fell down, lying paralyzed on the ground. However, he was still alive. The black-robed man thought that those devil techniques of their Devil Path sect, compared with Chen Xiang's technique, were simply children's stuff. Only the techniques utilized by Chen Xiang could be called as devil technique. Even when he casted those techniques, it might be said that there was no sign of any fluctuations of any sort. However, after he struck, the bones would be melted away, and moreover, it would instantly generate an excruciating pain. Only now did he realize why that black-robed man's arm suddenly became soft while battling with Chen Xiang a while ago. Still a long way to go. Chen Xiang shook his head and smiled. Those black-robed men were only in the third or fourth level of the true martial realm, and even if Chen Xiang had fought all alone, they still didn't stand a chance at all, not to mention Chen Xiang could battle unconstrained. You! Why have you not killed me? Don't expect me to answer any question. Chen Xiang's hand was already on that black-robed man's head. He was using the grasping soul devil curse on him as he asked, "Do you know how to leave the southern wasteland?" "I know. According to the Dean, as long as we have captured 30 righteous sect's disciples and placed them on the sacrificial altar, we can go out." The black-robed man replied. Chen Xiang took a deep breath. Su Meiyao had guessed correctly. The Devil Path were really planning to sacrifice the disciples of the righteous sections. After all, the majority of the righteous sect disciples cultivate pure true qi, which was most liked by the Devil Path. "Where is the sacrificial altar?" Chen Xiang asked. "In." The black-robed man, whose mind was being manipulated by Chen Xiang, readily told him the way to the sacrificial altar, and also in a very great detail. "Where are the rest of you?" That black-robed man told Chen Xiang about 3 places. He vividly described the route to Chen Xiang. Each of these 3 locations had 3 people respectively, and not one of them were weak. All of them were waiting to ambush some righteous sect disciples, and their purpose was to consume the true qi of the righteous sect disciples, so that they could be caught by those puppets manipulated by the Devil Path disciples. These Devil Path guys would never expect that besides I, their father, also have 2.5 very capable women. This had enabled me to see through their trick. In the end, your plans would be all destroyed by father. Chen Xiang coldly laughed, then chopped off the head of that black-robed man. He then beheaded the rest of them and placed their heads inside his storage ring. After he leave this D.A.M. Ned place, these things were rather good to increase his prestige, otherwise, under his brutal means, not even a SCR. AP of those 5 black-robed men would be left. Why did you say 2.5 women? Obviously, it's 3. Long Shui asked in uncertainty. You can only be counted as half. Chen Xiang laughed and said. Why? I'm not a child. You said yourself you cannot treat me as a child. Long Shui retorted in dissatisfaction. Hey, little dragon, you are too dirty. It might be said you don't even act like a woman. That's why you can only barely be counted as half. Chen Xiang laughed and said. Now that he had acquired a direction, he already knew where to go. Long Shui tenderly snorted and said, I'm being dirty only for your well-being. My good intention had all gone down the drain. Since you said so, I'll play downright dirty and let everyone know how obscene you are. Chen Xiang was not afraid. Even if Long Shui had not spoken as such, he would still be framed by her from time to time. From the black-robed man, he came to know that this place had long been prepared by them. He had also discovered that they also used some means to lure the righteous sect disciples, so that they could ambush them. If the righteous sect disciples who had entered this place did not have enough information, then they would be very easily lured away if they were not careful. Chen Xiang started walking and ran towards one of the closest ambush point among the 3. No matter which righteous sect disciple was it, he still needed to help them, because it concerned the overall situation. In case that there were 30 sacrifices enough to go to the altar, then it would rather be troublesome. The Devil Path sect's high-level executives didn't even dare to catch the true martial realm martial artists, because the true martial realm martial artists were smaller in number. Even more so, they were all very cautious. Usually, all of them stayed inside the sect and was very hard to capture. If they were not the righteous sect's disciples, their true qi would not be pure enough, and hence, they could not be offered as a sacrifice. Chen Xiang rushed for half an hour as he ran towards the depths of the southern wasteland, though the sacrificial altar was even more deeper. There is a sound of fighting. Chen Xiang stopped and listened carefully. He suddenly heard a few cold and tender shouts. It was Ling Yulan's voice. Chen Xiang could not help but hasten his footstep. In the blink of an eye, he suddenly vanished, as though he was a lightning that struck towards that direction. Soon, Ling Yulan and Xue Xianxian, these 2 beautiful and graceful women, came into his view. Both of them were together with their respective sect disciples. The Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire and the Icewind Valley were together, and they had a total of 13 people. At the moment, all of them were still alive, however, they were now being surrounded by a pack of more than 100 pitch-black wolves. It's the devil beasts, and they are being manipulated. Chen Xiang immediately determined. When a few of these black wolves flew over, their movements were all the same, and it was clear that they were being manipulated. Chapter 237 Counterattack in the Wasteland, Part 1. Chapter 237 Counterattack in the Wasteland, Part 1. The disciples of 2 sects, the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire and the Icewind Valley, were all very strong, and their overall strength was also not bad. When those black wolves swoop over, the Icewind Valley disciples immediately released an ice-cold chi aura, and in the blink of an eye, those black wolves were frozen. Very quickly, they were beheaded by Xue Xianxian and Ling Yulan under the watchful gaze of the other disciples, lest Xue Xianxian and Ling Yulan were attacked by someone else. Chen Xiang knew they were all together during their training, and they all went through Lu Menger's training. That was why all of them worked well together, which REA assured him a lot. Xue Xianxian was using a white long spear which appeared to be somewhat similar to Lu Menger's Kiss of the Jade Dragon. Apparently, it was forged by Lu Menger for Xue Xianxian, and Xue Xianxian seemed to have learned good spear techniques from her predecessor. Whenever she brandished her spear and thrust, its speed was so fast, such that to others, it appeared as if countless spears were being thrusted at the same time. The few black wolves which swoop over were quickly covered in bloody holes from her thrusts. Ling Yulan nimbly waved her giant sword as those wolves swoop over. After being frozen into ice blocks, Leng Yulan cut them into pieces. These two girls were both very strong, and even Chen Xiang had nothing but endless praises for them. Chen Xiang knew 3 Devil Path sect disciples were hidden here, however. He still didn't know how they could actually manipulate these devil beasts. He already asked Long Shui to find the location where these 3 were hidden. Still not found. Chen Xiang asked. At the moment, he was still ing towards Ling Yulan and the others, so he was worried that those hidden in the dark would attack them. In that big tree, Long Shui said. Chen Xiang looked at a relatively larger tree and took out the demanding life devil bow. He poured in a rich amount of universe true qi and shot a huge black arrow towards that 3. In a flash, the arrow went away as it immediately pierced that giant tree. An explosive sound burst out, followed by a burst of blood mist. The arrow he shot out was filled with rich true qi, which was something akin to an explosive material. After it entered the human body, it would immediately blast open the victim. It was certainly overbearing. After a Devil Path disciple was killed by Chen Xiang, a few of the wolves which were swooping over came to halt and fell on the ground. Chen Xiang once again infused the universe true qi into the demanding life devil bow and once again shot towards the trunk of that tree. In the blink of an eye, yet another explosion resounded as blood and flesh burst out from that tree. Chen Xiang was just preparing to shoot the 3rd arrow when a black shadow suddenly flashed out, completely disappearing into the forest. That man actually fled, and although he didn't know who was capable of attacking their people, he knew that if he remained, only death was waiting for him. Chen Xiang flew over to Xue Xianxian while the devil beasts all stood there, devoid of any movement. These were all puppets. If there was no one to manipulate them, then they would not be able to move. "Elder brother, I know it's you." Leng Yulan, after seeing a tall silhouette coming from afar, immediately shouted. Xue Xianxian, after seeing Chen Xiang, also grinned. "Brother Xiang is always elusive. In the end, what happened?" Chen Xiang extended out from the deep recess and respectively held Xue Xianxian and Ling Yulan's face. If not for too many people present here, Chen Xiang would have already hugged both of them. "Ladies and gentlemen, Lo." Chen Xiang held his fist towards the others and politely greeted them. Those people also saluted back one by one. Originally, they were very worried about those hidden in the dark, and Chen Xiang's appearance was totally out of their expectation. In addition, after Chen Xiang's appearance, the black wolves had all stopped moving. Long story short, the matter is very complicated. Everybody should listen very carefully. Chen Xiang hastily said and began to tell the things he knew. After Xue Xianxian and the others heard his story, they were startled at first, while Leng Yulan clenched her sword's hilt, her face completely turning solemn. These Devil Path guys have always harbored bad intentions. This is very troublesome. Ling Yulan coldly said. They could not contact the outside and they also could not leave. Currently, they could only continue to stay in here. It seems that we have to stay here for 2 months. If all the Devil Path guys were slaughtered and we stay here in the outer ring, then it will not be dangerous. Chen Xiang said. Xue Xianxian said, Brother Xiang, you quickly go and tell the other sect disciples, don't let them fall in the hands of these Devil Path disciples. Elder brother, you quickly go. You do not need to worry about us. Ling Yulan said. Although she wanted to follow Chen Xiang, she knew she would not bring much of help to Chen Xiang, even more so, she might also implicate Chen Xiang. If the situation was not so grim, Chen Xiang would certainly stay together with Ling Yulan and Xue Xianxian. After Chen Xiang exhorted them for a while, he quickly took his leave and went to the next ambush point. From Xue Xianxian, he came to know that they were lured by a person here. As the other side only had 1 person and they had 13 on their side, they thought that they could come out and attack. As long as those ambush points were found, he could easily find the other sect disciples. Now Chen Xiang only knew 3 ambush points, while the righteous sect had as many as 8 teams. He hoped he could reach there in time. Rest assured, these righteous sect disciples are not too weak. As long as they were not besieged by a martial artist that was too strong for them, generally, all of them could resist. Su Meiyao assured. Chen Xiang nodded his head. He was chasing that man who fled by following his remnant breath. Although that man was pretty quick, he was still not as fast as Chen Xiang. Just a little less than half an hour, Chen Xiang caught up with that man as he took out the demanding life devil bow and shot towards that black-robed man's leg. The demanding life devil bow was very accurate. So long as he infused enough true qi, it would be stable enough. Generally, it would not miss the target, so after the black bolt penetrated that black-robed man's leg, it suddenly burst open and blasted that man's leg into pieces. Chen Xiang quickly flew over and continuously smacked a good few palms on that man, melting away that black-robed man's entire bones, and causing him to suffer the excruciating pain of corroding bones. Chen Xiang punched and kicked that man. That black-robed man was in the 4th level of the true martial realm. However, each of Chen Xiang's punches and kicks were infused with vigorous true qi. Each of his moves were extremely imposing, pummeling that black-robed man nearly to death. "When did you come here?" Chen Xiang asked. He had already casted the grasping soul devil curse on that man. 3 days ago, that black-robed man replied. On one side he answered, while on the other, he spewed blood. Chen Xiang tightly frowned. The 5 black-robed men he had previously encountered apparently said they didn't know how to manipulate those puppets, yet this guy who came here just 3 days ago knew how to manipulate them. "Who taught you how to manipulate these black wolves?" Chen Xiang tugged his hair and loudly asked. "An elder." "When did you start learning? Where did you learn?" Chen Xiang once again asked. 3 months ago, inside the forbidden area of the sect. "Tell me, where are the rest of you hiding?" Chen Xiang began asking a series of questions. He believed that this black-robed man's status was rather high compared to those 5 men he had encountered before, so he asked a lot of things. He also obtained one crucial information. To be precise, it was about the 2 strongest men in here. Both of them were in the 5th level of the true martial realm. One came 3 years ago, while the other came 3 days ago. Both of them worked together and manipulated different kinds of puppet to consume the true qi of the righteous sect disciples. 3 days ago, 50 devil sect disciples came in, and only 30 of them knew how to manipulate these puppets. Moreover, these 30 were also stronger than the rest. Chen Xiang, after beheading that black-robed man, rushed to the next ambush point. The ambush points of the devil sect disciples were all linked together. If they failed once, then the next one would carry on. Even if the righteous sect disciples said through one of the ambush points, then they would have consumed a lot of their true qi, and finally, they would be caught at the next ambush point. Chapter 238 Counterattack in the Wasteland, Part 2. Chapter 238 Counterattack in the Wasteland, Part 2. A while ago, Chen Xiang had already exhorted Xue Xianxian and the others to prevent them from entering the depths of the southern wasteland. Because deep into the southern wasteland, the devil qi was heavier, and that could allow these puppets to rapidly absorb devil qi and restore their strength. In the periphery, the devil qi was weak, so if the puppets in the periphery had consumed their strength, it would be very difficult for them to restore. Moreover, these devil sect disciples had no lack of fear, though these righteous sect disciples were also not someone to trifle with. The nearest ambush point was not too far away. Chen Xiang just ran for a while before he heard Yun Xiaodao shout, "D.A.M. And fatty, watch your big fat ass. Don't be bitten by the dog. Squinted dragon, don't skew your eyes, it always makes me think something is attacking me." Hearing this voice, Chen Xiang shook his head and smiled. He took out the demanding life devil bow while Long Shui was searching for those puppeteers of the devil sect hidden in the dark. "Little rascal Yun, don't randomly spray your sword qi, it is ruining my hair," Zhu Rong shouted. Su Weilong coldly said, "Both of you, can't you spout less nonsense? Don't let your manhood bitten by these things." Chen Xiang was already looking at a humongous black wolf from afar. It was the same as what Xue Xianxian and the others had encountered, and all of them were devil beasts. Although they were not very strong, there was still a lot of them. But because only 15 could be manipulated at the same time, so long as one could deal with them, it would not be dangerous. Yun Xiaodao and their squad's teamwork was rather good. Yun Xiaodao and Hao Dongqing were responsible for attacking, both of their offense was rather strong. Lei Xionglin, Lei Zhong, Zhu Rong and Su Weilong were responsible for fending off those black wolves swooping over from everywhere. After these wolves were crippled, they were then given to Yun Xiaodao and Hao Dongqing to kill. Yao Haixing and Lian Mingdong were responsible for scanning the surroundings, lest some other thing attack them. Wu Qianqian was releasing some flames which surrounded them in one big circle, causing those nearby black wolves into retreat to prevent themselves from getting burned. Her flame had formed a very strong defensive circle. Probably, these devil sect disciples would have never expected that the devil beasts they were proud of would simply be vulnerable in front of these well-trained righteous sect disciples. If not for having a large number, their ambush would have already failed. Of course, their main purpose was to make the righteous sect disciples consume their true qi, and at the same time, to probe their accurate strength. D.A.M. N-Pig your AFUC. King Calamity. You said these demon beasts are worth a fortune, and we should catch them. Look now, we are FUC. King surrounded. Mother. You see, Kerr, there are still more than 100, and they are also so D.A.M. N difficult to kill. Yun Xiaodao grumbled. Little rascal Yun, when father had picked up a top-grade crystal stone and the building foundation dawn, why did you not say anything then? If we make a fortune, you will definitely work yourself to death even more than me. Zhu Rong cursed. Chen Xiang had long been accustomed to their bickering. As long as they were all together, they would never stop bickering with each other. Although they act like this, their relations were very good. Found it. On that tree, and that tree. Long Shui pointed at 3 different trees to Chen Xiang. Those devil sect disciples had hollowed out the trunk of the tree and hid within it. However, this also made it more convenient for Chen Xiang to shoot them to death with the demanding life devil bow. The devil sect disciples on the ambush points didn't know their plot has already been seen by Chen Xiang, and Chen Xiang, in secret, was already counterattacking. Currently, Chen Xiang had already killed almost 10 devil sect disciples. Chen Xiang, with the demanding life devil bow, aimed at a relatively larger tree, mobilized his true qi and infused it into the demanding life devil bow. At this moment, the devil sect disciple hiding in the tree probably thought it was extremely cool, manipulating some black wolf to fight. However, while he was enjoying the moment, a black bolt made of vigorous true qi, without any sound, penetrated his body, thereby blasting him into pieces. Hey, next! Chen Xiang, after seeing the burst of blood mist accompanied by broken pieces of wood, mischievously laughed and once again released an arrow while facing another tree. One after another, he had shot 3 arrows. He was worried that someone would run away, and by that time, the devil sect disciples would then realize what was happening, making it harder for him to kill them so easily and quietly. With 3 consecutive explosive sounds, 3 trees were blown up, and it was accompanied by some blown-away pieces of meat. Yun Xiaodao and the others had already guessed something was up, and with the halt of the attack of these black wolves, Zhu Rong grabbed this opportunity and quickly brandished the long sword in his hand, mindlessly hacking these black wolves. Chen Xiang had a wide grin on his face as he ran over. Everyone, after seeing Chen Xiang, immediately let off their guard. At the same time, their admiration for Chen Xiang surged forth in their heart, a really monstrous talent. With just his appearance, he had scared the SHI+T out of these wolves. Elder brother Chen, it's really you. I should have already guessed you must have arrived. right? What the hell happened? Yun Xiaodao asked. Chen Xiang, in order to not stall any more time, quickly said everything he knew. Yun Xiaodao's group's reaction was the same as Xue Xianxian's group's. They were scared as well as angry. But now that they know, naturally, they had their guards up and would not be lured again. Okay, you quickly go and converge with the disciples of the divine weapon Heavenly Empire and the Icewind Valley. Once all of you are together, you don't need to be worried about getting wiped out by the Devil Sect disciples all of a sudden. They are not so formidable as you've imagined. I've already killed more than 10 along the way. Chen Xiang laughed and said. A little smile appeared on Yun Xiaodao's face. Elder brother Chen, it's easy for you to say, but for us, these guys are very insidious. Only you who is more insidious than them could hold them. You, this guy, do you want to say I'm insidious? Chen Xiang scoffingly said. You already said so. Yun Xiaodao started laughing. At this time, Wu Qianqian interjected. Chen Xiang, you should quickly go. By the way, you have to be careful of the Beast Martial sect and the Proud Sword sect. They seem to hate you, and they banded together and created a squad to deal with you. Understood. Chen Xiang laughed and said, then like a wind, he flew away. Yun Xiaodao and Zhu Rong once again bickered for a bit, and only after slaughtering the entire pack of the Black Wolves, did they follow in accordance with the said route by Chen Xiang to find Xue Xianxian's group. Chen Xiang, along the way, encountered human devils and devil beasts. It could be seen that the ones the Devil Sect disciples were manipulating were very weak. As for the stronger ones, they could not be tamed by them. If they saw those stronger ones and survived, it could already be considered as very lucky. Although the attack of these kinds of human devils and the devil beasts was weak, it was still very consuming, and it could easily consume the true chi of the others. The next ambush point was also not completely into the depths of the southern wasteland. Instead, it was stretched along one side, and it could very well be considered as a zone. If these Devil Path sect's disciples entered the depths, then they would also not be able to endure. A while ago, he heard from Yun Xiaodao that after the 8 righteous sect's disciples entered, they spread along many directions, and all of them went looking for a safe point. They were looking for an advantageous location where they could attack and defend at the same time, which could allow them to stay safe for the next 2 months. If not for these Devil Path sect's conspiracy, then their plan would have been surefire. He quickly went to the next ambush point, but he didn't find any righteous disciple, or anyone else in that matter. Very quietly, he patiently waited for Long Xue to complete her probing. He wanted to see whether or not he could find those hidden Devil Sect disciples in here. Found them. Long Xue became happy. Although she didn't act, helping Chen Xiang to secretly plot against the Devil Path sects made her feel elated. Another 3 people. Chen Xiang reckoned that they were yet to lure in any righteous sect disciples. This time, we will be low-key, a bit gentle. Chen Xiang slightly smiled. He shot an arrow as fine as a hair shot, although it was only separated by a bark. Long Xue could still lock onto the Devil Sect disciple's head. With just one shot, one of them was instantly dealt with. He didn't make the arrow explode, as he wanted to kill all 3 of them quietly. Chapter 239 Devil Beast Raid. Chapter 239 Devil Beast Raid. At this moment, Chen Xiang could not bear to put down the demanding life devil bow. He decided to ask Lu Menger to enhance it and make it even more formidable instead. If this was possible, he would request Lu Menger to forge many more similar equipments so he could equip his own people. If that happened, then they would be a force to be reckoned with during the battle. If 10 powerful arrows came out of nowhere towards a single target, just what would happen? The more Chen Xiang thought about this, the more excited he became. However, this kind of equipment was definitely not easy to refine. He understood this point very well. Furthermore, many refining methods had been lost, including this particular one. After all 3 arrows were shot, The 3 people hiding inside the tree trunk would probably stay there until their bodies completely decomposed. Even in their death, none of them thought that the tree would become their gravestone and the trunk their coffin. The route was around the periphery, but not into the depths of the southern wasteland. It seems these devil sect disciples also knew going too far was dangerous, a point of no return. Even they did not dare enter. However, if Chen Xiang wanted to destroy the altar, he would have to go far past the point of no return, as the altar was deep past that line. The altar had terrifying abilities. Not only could it contact those in the devil domain, it could also awaken sleeping tyrants, and even dispel the array surrounding this place. To perform the ritual a sacrifice was necessary, or they could only ask the devil from the devil domain to release its strength, or send something useful. Under ordinary circumstances, the sacrifice needed to be alive. Suddenly, the ground started shaking. From far away, the sound of fighting could be heard. Chen Xiang was astonished in his heart, and with a single leap, he quickly climbed up onto a high tree. He quickly noticed many people covered in black robes with huge executioner blades hacking towards 10 men. Human devils! And so many of them! To Chen Xiang's surprise, there were a good few hundred of them present, tightly surrounding 10 men. At the same time, there were 30 of them attacking, in other words, there were 6 puppeteers. Little dragon, quickly find those 6 people, Chen Xiang said before he secretly rushed towards the battle. With Chen Xiang closing in, Long Shui quickly found the location of the 6 key individuals. He inferred that all of these people definitely came here 3 years ago, otherwise it would have been impossible for them to find so many human devils. These 6 people were not hiding in a trunk, but rather in the canopy. From time to time, they threw a few short swords from above towards those 10 men. It's the Proud Sword Sect and the Beast Martial Sect. Chen Xiang was astonished in his heart. Wu Qianqian had informed him that the disciples of the Proud Sword Sect and the Beast Martial Sect had allied together, and warned him to be vigilant of the disciples from these 2 sections. Among the Proud Sword Sect, there was an individual who Chen Xiang recognized, Gan Jiujian. Before, Chen Xiang had ruthlessly disgraced him. It was impossible for Gan Jiujian not to hate Chen Xiang, but he didn't care too much about it. If the other party wanted to kill him, he would definitely fight back and use a number of brutal means to eradicate the threat. With one shot, Chen Xiang blasted a devil sect disciple into pieces with a thick black bolt. Then, one after the other, he shot a good few arrows in rapid succession. When they were still confused about what was happening, they had already been killed. These devil sect disciples were not very strong, only around the 3rd level of the true martial realm. Even if they had erected a true Chi Hi plus ELD in front of the crossbolt created from Chen Xiang's universe true Chi, it would be easily penetrated by the crossbolt from the demanding life devil bow. Those human devils had no intelligence. The disciples of the Proud Sword Sect and the Beast Martial Sect all heaved a huge collective sigh of relief. If these human devils had all swooped over to assault them, they would be torn apart into pieces. As Chen Xiang walked towards them with the demanding life devil bow in his hand, those 10 disciples suddenly raised their guards again, as if facing an enemy. Gan Jiujian and the other were not stupid. They obviously realized that those hundreds of devils had all been manipulated. Considering what just happened, combined with the earlier explosions, those puppeteers must have been killed by someone. After noticing the demanding life devil bow in Chen Xiang's hands, they immediately understood he was the one who had saved them. This made them rather upset, because they all very much wanted to kill Chen Xiang. Firstly because Chen Xiang had a bounty of 15 million crystal stones on his head, and secondly because Chen Xiang had a great reputation, which could raise their prestige if they managed to kill him. However, they all didn't dare to attack Chen Xiang now, because they were clearly aware of the difference between Chen Xiang and themselves. The disciples of the Proud Sword Sect originally had a bad temper, and were very arrogant. Even if they were all rescued, they would definitely not be grateful. As for the disciples of the Beast Martial sect, certain ideas had been instilled in them by their sect, making them hate the extreme martial sect, and more specifically, hate Chen Xiang. This is also why these disciples often went to the borders of the extreme martial sect and secretly killed some civilians to feed their demon beast. However, since the last time Chen Xiang had spoken, they didn't dare to go again. If the extreme martial sect was provoked, their beast martial sect would definitely be destroyed. Chen Xiang saw these 10 people putting up a stinking expression as if his actions to save them was an utmost insult to them. He secretly regretted for being a busybody a moment ago. However, if he had not saved them, then these 10 men would have been captured and offered as a sacrifice. By that time, the stakes would be higher. "We will not thank you," Gan Jiujian coldly said. "I also didn't ask for your grat. 1. Dude, I only want to tell you something. Whether you want to hear or not, I have to say it." Chen Xiang simply informed them of the current situation. Although they were surprised in their hearts, they also felt admiration for Chen Xiang on discovering the conspiracy. However, they were also very uncomfortable as well as jealous. "Humph, why should we believe you?" a Beast Martial sect's disciple said. "I don't care whether you believe me or not. But, I do hope you do not implicate the whole world." Chen Xiang took out the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade while he was speaking and began beheading those motionless human devils. His speed combined with his brutal execution method left those 10 onlookers drenched with a cold sweat, yet also even more jealous. Just as Chen Xiang killed half of them, a very nauseating and penetrating howl suddenly came out of nowhere. At the same time, it was also followed by a raid of terrifying devil chi. Chen Xiang immediately determined that it came from a very terrifying and powerful devil beast. Indeed, a creature faintly resembling an ancient crocodile suddenly swooped over. It had a huge body, as long as 3 zhangs, covered in very hard scales glistening with black aura. Its teeth-filled mouth spewing out black qi continuously. As soon as this crocodile devil beast came over, it began eating those human devils. To Chen Xiang's surprise, that crocodile devil beast's speed seemed almost like teleportation. His forehead was drenched in cold sweat because this crocodile devil beast was very strong. Gan Jiujian and the others seemed to be petrified from fear. Their limbs went numb from fear just from the devil chi emanating from this huge crocodile devil beast. This huge creature soon finished its meal of those human devils, and then looked at Chen Xiang. A sudden glare from those pair of pupils was rather terrifying. "Incoming!" As Long Shui shouted, Chen Xiang's figure already disappeared. Just before that crocodile devil beast opened its jaw to bite him, as a giant tree was snapped in two like a twig. Chen Xiang still had a lingering sensation of fear. If he was even a little bit slower a second ago, maybe his bones would have been snapped by that powerful jaw instead of the tree. Along his journey, Chen Xiang had prayed to not encounter this kind of powerful devil beast. However, he still encountered it. He could only sigh at his own bad luck. Upon seeing the crocodile devil beast attacking Chen Xiang, Gan Jiujian and the others were extremely happy in their hearts, and even quickly fled. This made Chen Xiang secretly curse them. Chapter 240 Turning Back on Old Acquaintances. Chapter 240 Turning Back on Old Acquaintances. The crocodile devil beast saw someone escaping, so it immediately retaliated with a sweep of its huge tail, uprooting a giant tree along with the soil. However, Gan Jiujian and the others still escaped. Of course, Chen Xiang was in no mood to battle this dangerous beast. But now that he was being eyed, if he couldn't defeat this crocodile devil beast, maybe this big guy would find other righteous sect disciples and harm them. Chen Xiang clutched the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade while moving in a zigzag phase. On in order to avoid that keen and huge tail. The trees it swept, without any exception, were all torn into pieces. A moment ago, Chen Xiang paid attention when this crocodile devil beast attacked. He noticed that before it attacked, it would release a black devil chi, and this was precisely its source of power. This creature should be the black armored crocodile from the ancient period, a third-grade spirit beast. It should have lived in the southern wasteland for a very long time, absorbing a large amount of devil chi, making it become so powerful. It should be close to a 6th-level true martial realm martial artist. Fortunately, the potential of the black armored crocodiles is not great, and at most, it can only become a 4th-grade spirit beast. Now that it has absorbed the devil chi in here, it should only be equal to a 5th-grade spirit beast. Su Meiyao said. The black armored crocodile didn't only have fighting instinct, its perception was also very strong. Even after Chen Xiang converged his breath, he was still found. As the huge tail swept everything in its path, Chen Xiang brandished his blade to meet. Azure Chi burst from the Azure Dragon slaughtering Devil Blade, as Chen Xiang infused a large amount of Azure Dragon True Chi into it, causing it to become extremely heavy. When he cleaved it, the strength produced was even more tyrannical. As the broadsword and that huge tail fully covered in black scales collided together, sparks burst forth. That black armored crocodile let out a howl, and as for Chen Xiang, he was swept away because of the tens of thousands gene impact from the collision. Although the conclusion was as such, the previous blade strike didn't show any weakness. It left a hole on black armored crocodile's tail, and the tumbling Chen Xiang could see black blood dripping from its tail. The black armored crocodile's huge body was supported by 4 thick and powerful limbs. It slightly lowered its body before it fiercely took a leap towards Chen Xiang. Chen Xiang, at the moment, was still tumbling away, and this kind of speed from the black armored crocodile was totally out of Chen Xiang's expectation. He simply was too late to resist, and finally, he was ruthlessly struck by its giant head. The black armored crocodile was a spirit beast. Although its intellect had been eroded by devil chi, turning it into a maniac, battle instinct was still ingrained into its body. It could be said that it has a rich battle experience. When it struck Chen Xiang, its head was infused with black devil chi, granting it even more power during the collision. Chen Xiang let out a bellow as he fiercely slammed on a nearby hill, leaving a giant pit on the side of the hill. Soon, a large number of stones flew down from the top of the hill. This guy. Puff. Chen Xiang spat out blood. The black armored crocodile's strength was far more than he had antic. 1p aided, and its wisdom was even more shocking. My injuries are serious, this time I have to use that move. Chen Xiang got down from that hill and mobilized the hidden mystical spiritual power in his body. He made it flow through his whole body, transforming it into spirit patterns. After he sensed that the black armored crocodile was Rus. Hi+ing over, he chanted some spell. The black armored crocodile, in a span of seconds, came in front of Chen Xiang. It just stood there, without any movement, observing Chen Xiang. It didn't attack immediately, but it opened its mouth and bit towards Chen Xiang. Heavenly Dragon Seal, release. Chen Xiang ferociously roared as true chi from his body suddenly drifted into the air. No less than half of his spiritual power drifted away too, and to Chen Xiang's surprise, a large amount of devil chi rushed from all 4 directions like a surging tide. In the blink of an eye, it formed a huge black dragon claw in the air. The black armored crocodile felt the incoming threat, but just as he wanted to avoid, that huge black dragon claw slammed down on him like a mountain. As a thunderous explosion befell, a wild light suddenly flashed from Chen Xiang's body. Long Shui had used her own power to create Hi+ELD to guard Chen Xiang. As Chen Xiang was in front of the black armored crocodile when the huge heavenly dragon seal befell, he too was affected. If not for Long Shui, he would probably be even more heavily injured. Boom, boom, boom. The world shook and the ground fiercely trembled. The mountain behind Chen Xiang also disappeared, while the whole ground below was covered in numerous 100 deep pits. As for the black armored crocodile, it was buried under the ground. Chen Xiang, from underneath the black armored crocodile, climbed out. He was in a very sorry state. He had suffered serious injuries, but in the end, he had defeated that powerful black armored crocodile. This guy's armor is really thick, I want it. Pooh! Chen Xiang spat out the soil that had entered his mouth, which was accompanied by a lot of blood. From the impact brought by the black armored crocodile's attack a while ago, his 5 zhang and 6 fu have suffered serious injuries. This armor is not worse than the adamantal crocodile python, Su Meiyao said. Speaking of the adamantal crocodile python, Chen Xiang had almost forgotten. That adamantal crocodile python was still with Lu Menger. He had not yet taken back his share. To Chen Xiang's surprise, the black armored crocodile was still alive. Chen Xiang climbed up on his head, and with the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, he ruthlessly stabbed down on its protruding black eye. The azure dragon slaughtering blade struck deep into the black armored crocodile's brain, but only after Chen Xiang stabbed multiple times did the black armored crocodile finally die. My strength is far from enough. If I encounter a few more this type of beasts, I'll definitely die. Chen Xiang lamented after storing the black armored crocodile. Facing this kind of beast, he felt very powerless, and he knew that deep into the southern wasteland, these kinds of beasts were abundant, and they were even more powerful than the black armored crocodile. Long Shui said, "At the very least, you need to have the strength of a 5th-level true marital realm martial artist. Only then could you easily cope with this guy. The azure dragon slaughtering devil blade is specialized in slaughtering the devils, but your power is far from enough. Because of that, you cannot exhibit its complete power, otherwise with just one strike you could behead this guy." Even though Chen Xiang had the black tortoise adamantal armor, he still suffered serious injuries from the impact. If it was the others, they would probably be already dead. At once, he took out 2 boxes of white jade dan and a piece of H.E.L. Spirit GRAS. And swallowed them down in one breath. He also took out true elemental dawn and swallowed them to recover his true qi. Not much of his true qi was remaining, and if he encountered any crisis again, it would then be very dangerous. From the bottom of the huge pit, as Chen Xiang came out and looked back at the little lake-like giant pit, he could not help but marvel in his heart. With his strength right now, he could already produce such might. If he was in the Nirvana realm, wouldn't he be able to easily destroy an entire mountain range? Someone's coming, it's those guys from the Beast Martial Sect and the Proud Sword Sect. Long Shui suddenly said. Chen Xiang turned his head to look. 10 figures walking out from the ruined forest came into his view. Chen Xiang? Ha ha! I'd never thought you would have a day like this. Gan Jiujian said with a hideous grin. With a greedy look, he stared at the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade in Chen Xiang's hands. The Beast Martial Sect's disciples also took out their weapons one by one as they sinisterly stared at the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade of Chen Xiang's. The Proud Sword Sect's disciples also pulled out their swords and slowly walked over to Chen Xiang. TLN, stupid move. Sigh. Chapter 241, Great Swallowing. Chapter 241, Great Swallowing. Chen Xiang's complexion sank. He knew these people hated him, and they would certainly seize the opportunity to kill him, which made him extremely furious. What do you want to do? Are you forgetting I've saved you before? Chen Xiang stood up and clenched the hilt of the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade. His complexion turned even more gloomier. Although his true qi was thin, the monstrous slaughter qi, which was hidden in his slaughtering heart, became uncontrollable and was completely released due to his anger. It caused those disciples of the Proud Sword Sect and the Beast Martial Sect to halt their footstep. So what? Chen Xiang, you dying in my hands is your blessing. At least you'll not be eaten by those guys. Gan Jiujian laughed and said, He was currently still uncertain how much of Chen Xiang's strength was remaining, however, seeing Chen Xiang's haggard complexion, he knew that Chen Xiang had suffered serious injuries. You forgot what my dean had said? If you took action against me, then your sect would be destroyed by the extreme martial sect. Chen Xiang coldly shouted as he frowned. A blade-like sharp glint flashed through his eyes, making Gan Jiujian and the others somewhat hesitant. So long as no one from us speak about it, who will know we have killed you? Gan Jiujian shouted. Don't be afraid of him, he is just putting on airs. He is seriously injured. Everyone, let's kill him together, then we will divide his treasure. The wealth on Chen Xiang was also an attraction to many, and many people knew he was overflowing with riches. Chen Xiang, while looking at the greedy look on their faces, felt incomparably cold. His desire to kill them was soaring in his heart. Attack! Gan Jiujian shouted as he rushed greedily towards Chen Xiang. He knew that the blade in Chen Xiang's hand was very excellent. With a casual wave, it actually had cut off his proud spirit weapon. Those 10 men rushed over to Chen Xiang, including 2 5th-level true martial realm martial artists. As for the rest of them, they were either in the 3rd level or 4th level of the true martial realm. Their overall strength could be described as good, and they originally believed that even if Chen Xiang wasn't injured, all of them together would be able to defeat Chen Xiang. It was just that they would need to pay a bigger price. Ha ha! Suddenly, Chen Xiang burst out into an insane laughter, which made Gan Jiujian and the others to suddenly halt their steps. Chen Xiang's laughter was hair-raising, and they could not help but feel jittery as HI+ver ran down their spine. Chen Xiang's insane laughter was like that of a devil, drowning their hearts in fear. Ungrateful things, what's the difference between those devils and you? Chen Xiang's countenance turned incomparably hideous. He stared at them with bloodshot and wide-open eyes as his voice turned completely malevolent. Don't be afraid, he is seriously injured. Just as Gan Jiujian's voice fell, a white light suddenly flashed from Chen Xiang's arm. Drawing up the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade from the ground, he fiercely brandished it horizontally towards those 10 figures not so far away. A white powerful chi from the huge blade shot out and transformed into a huge white semicircle, which Pa-S set across those 10 figures. In the next moment, Gan Jiujian and the others suddenly spat out blood and fell down on the ground one by one. All of them had a look of horror, fear and disbelief. A moment ago, Chen Xiang had relied on Long Shui, and that was equivalent to one shot of Long Shui's complete strength. It was also his hidden card, and unless it was an extremely dire situation, he would never use it. Long Shui's true qi was very mysterious. When it permeated into their body, it destroyed their viscera from the inside. Haha, didn't you want to kill me? Why are all of you lying on the ground? Chen Xiang laughed and said. From his body, more and more black qi surged out, and a bizarre power enveloped Gan Jiujian and the others. You? What are you going to do? Gan Jiujian screamed. All of them had suffered serious injuries, but the true qi within their body was still there. They could still attack, however. They felt as though their true qi was out of control, hastily leaving their body. Chen Xiang's complexion turned gloomy. Black qi emerged from his eyes. He had casted the engulfing devil technique, causing the black qi to jump and soar while absorbing the other's true qi. It was the 2nd level of the engulfing devil technique, and now there was no need for him to touch his target's body. He could directly engulf his opponent's true qi, however. The premise was that the other party was injured. True qi. The true qi within my body is leaving me. A man shouted in shock, before he suddenly let out a shriek as a bright fog broke out from his body and drifted over to Chen Xiang. The others were all experiencing the same. The true qi within their respective body was flowing out and fluttering towards Chen Xiang, assimilating into Chen Xiang's body as he continued to spew out those black qi. Devil! Chen Xiang, you big devil! You are actually using this kind of vicious devil technique on us. The righteous sex will not let you go. Too long, I saved you, yet not only were you ungratified, you even took advantage of my injury to kill me. How can you still think yourself as righteous sex people? What's the difference between how you act and the devil's? I just want you to pay blood with blood, that's all. Chen Xiang glared at that proud sword sect disciple before two beams fiercely shot out from his eyes, penetrating that man's head to death. This was the penetrating heart devil eye, and it was also Chen Xiang's first time using it on a human. A martial skill which could engulf others' true qi, not to mention those from the devil path, even among the righteous path, it was a skill sought after. Gan Jiujin clenched his teeth as he glared at Chen Xiang. His heart was filled with regret. Originally, there was no conflict between him and Chen Xiang, and moreover, Chen Xiang had even given him a chance last time. However, because of his arrogance, his fate had suddenly turned for the worst. Not long ago, Chen Xiang had saved them, and Chen Xiang had even blocked the black armored crocodile so that they could escape, making him suffer some injuries. When Chen Xiang needed help the most, they actually did even worse than pigs and dogs. They actually wanted to kill Chen Xiang and seize his treasure. In truth, they were the devils. Gan Jiujian felt the true qi in his body was slowly disappearing. With each sing moment, he felt increasingly regretful. If they were not hostile to Chen Xiang from the beginning, then they could have become friends with Chen Xiang. However, in this world, there was no Dan for regret. Chen Xiang. You waste A-S-T-A-R-D. A beast martial sex disciple cursed, but before he could even finish with his cursing, two beams shot out from Chen Xiang's eyes and penetrated his head. Very quickly, the pure and vigorous true qi from those 10 disciples were absorbed by Chen Xiang. However, in Chen Xiang's opinion, their true qi had too much impurities, so he still needed to refine it. But before it, he had to first slaughter all of them. Gan Jiujian, the outstanding young disciple of the proud sword sect, you, dying in my hands, can be counted as your blessing. Chen Xiang, seeing Gan Jiujian's face which was covered in fear and remorse, mercilessly waved the azure dragon slaughtering devil in his hand, beheading Gan Jiujian. Seeing the blood spilled, all those people lying on the ground were frightened. They knew that the next one to die would be them. Feeling that death was so close, they felt nauseous. Only now did they knew how precious life was. All of them had become true martial realm martial artists. Many mortals, in their eyes, were akin to ordinary existence. But at this moment, all of them were no different from those mortals. They were inevitably going to die. One by one Chen Xiang beheaded them with the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade. Whenever the blade in his hand fall, a head would be separated from the body. Whenever blood violently shed, those disciples who were still breathing would feel their hearts stop as endless fear engulfed their body. The sky was completely dark, while the ground of the ghastly forest was littered with corpses. Blood was dripping from the blade in Chen Xiang's hand, as if an execution from Hell had just occurred. Chen Xiang heaved a long sigh and released some flames. After burning off the corpses, he quickly left, seeking for a place to refine the true qi he had absorbed. Chapter 242, 9-Turn Dragon God Technique. Chapter 242, 9-Turn Dragon God Technique. This time, he had engulfed the true qi of many people, and among them, there were 2 from 5th level of the true martial realm. It was the first time Chen Xiang had engulfed so much at once, and at this point, his entire body was bearing the brunt of the tyrannical true qi. With his huge divine sense, he could still suppress it, but he must quickly refine it, otherwise it would be dangerous. Chen Xiang was now in the 2nd level of the immortal and devil body, and was also cultivating Hi+2, that was why his overall strength was so strong. Otherwise, Bai Yu, a moment ago, would have prevented Chen Xiang from engulfing their true qi. Furthermore, it was fortunate that the ones he had engulfed were righteous people. Although their true chi was tyrannical, compared to devil sect disciples, it could be considered modest. If you want to cultivate SHI+2, don't use the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise to cultivate the divine sense. Use the 9-turn dragon God technique. Long Shui said, "There is a lot of true chi left within your body, you have enough to cultivate your divine sense." Chen Xiang was hiding within the hollow of a tree while operating the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise to refine the true chi he had engulfed. Hearing Long Shui's words, he hastily asked, "Is this 9-turn dragon God technique powerful or not?" "Nonsense, of course it is formidable. Only dragons from our imperial dragon family know how to cultivate it. The dragon slayer divine martial skill are many, but only 10 of them can be considered the strongest. Your Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise is one of them, and this 9-turn dragon God technique is the main exercise of our imperial dragon family. We use it to cultivate SHI+2. Long Shui, seeing someone was suspicious of her imperial dragon family's exercise, proudly explained. Chen Xiang was elated in his heart. "You little girl, why have you not given it to me early on? Fart, do you think this 9-turn dragon God technique can be casually said on to you? Only after considering for a long time did I decided to pass on the contents of the first turn. But just from first turn you can cultivate till the nirvana realm." Long Shui said in a tender voice. She had spent some time with Chen Xiang, and although she often bickered with him, she already knew his character. Moreover, she also had some feelings for Chen Xiang. "By sing the 9-turn dragon God technique to you, I'm violating the rules of the imperial dragon family. If they came to know it, I'll be in trouble." Long Shui exhorted, "That's why not in a million chance could you let any other dragon know. Rest assured I understand." Chen Xiang solemnly said, "If because of this matter you get punished, I'll definitely not let those dragons succeed." "Humph. Even though you cultivate powerful dragon slayer divine martial skill, you are looking down too much on my imperial dragon family." Although her mouth said so, in her heart, Long Shui felt sweet. Someone concerned about her made her feel very warm. After a short while, in Chen Xiang's mind, there was now a lot of information. The 9-turn dragon God technique's content was too much. Just the first turn was already unbearable. Fortunately, it was transferred through divine sense, otherwise God knows when he would be finished learning it. Dragon God. It refers to the dragon cultivating SHI+2, eventually becoming a powerful God. The exercise of cultivating SHI+2 was very profound. Under the heaven, perhaps only dragons, this kind of life form, could create this kind of powerful and profound exercise. Chen Xiang very quickly comprehended it, and in accordance with the cultivation method, he directly operated the true qi within his body. A large amount of true qi in his body circulated in all his limbs and bones, was plusing his meridians, bones and muscles, making his body stronger. At the same time, it produced pure true qi and spiritual power. The true qi entered his dantian, while the spiritual power entered his consciousness. Operating the 9-turn dragon God technique and the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise at the same time didn't cause any conflict. That was why the refinement of those impure true qi became very quick. This made him feel as if he was flying, especially when looking at the divine soul growing in his consciousness. He felt very comfortable. Chen Xiang secretly decided that after he refined all the engulfed true qi, he would give Long Shui some true elemental dawn. After all, she sacrificed so much for him, and against the rules of her clan, she even said him the powerful 9-turn dragon God technique. 10 days passed, said, and in Chen Xiang's dantian, 250 true elemental grains were now illuminated. One must know that the more true elemental grains he lit up, the difficulty to lit up more would increase. It would require even more true qi to be compressed in order to illuminate these true elemental grains. This would also make his true qi incomparably vigorous. He had engulfed 10 people's true qi, and after refining the dregs in these true qis, the leftover true qi was just ordinary. After its integration, Chen Xiang made continuous breakthrough and finally strided into the 5th level of the true martial realm. You brat, it's best that you don't get infatuated with this way of increasing your strength. Su Meiyao softly snorted and said. Yes, if this continues, your foundation would become unstable, and it will greatly affect your future. Bai Yu said. Chen Xiang nodded his head. In cultivation, one most steadily advanced. One was required to let some true qi precipitate, and only under repeated use of this true qi could they solidify their foundation. Otherwise, in the future, his true qi would be very weak. A lot of sludge overflowed from his body, after quickly taking a bath, gave Long Shui 500 true elemental dawn, made Long Shui sweetly smile again and again. If I encounter the black-armored crocodile again, Father will absolutely not get so battered and exhausted again. Chen Xiang, while clutching the azure dragon's slaughtering devil blade, felt the rise of heroic spirit in his heart. He could not wait to find a black-armored crocodile and try his strength again. However, he had more important things to do. Because of cultivating for a few days, he had already been delayed for some time. He still need to find the disciples of the true martial sect, the Lotus Island and the Danxiang Taoyuan to warn them about the Devil Path sect's conspiracy. At the same time, he also need to ask them to converge with everybody in order to deal with the Devil sect disciples. Chen Xiang looked all around for a while, walking about in a circle. Very soon he quickly found the way to the next ambush point. He immediately started running. He had been cultivating for a few days, and in these few days, many things could have happened. He ran for a while before he saw many traces on the ground and the trunk of some trees. These are of black wolves, and there are also some human footprints. Chen Xiang, while observing the ground, speculated that someone was attacked by a pack of wolves. However, during the fight they could only escape, and these black wolves were in hot pursuit. Looking at the footprints on the ground, Chen Xiang's complexion changed. The footprints of these wolves seemed to be a bit bigger, furthermore, so many of them were chasing at the same time. It seems that they are not being manipulated. Are they devil beasts themselves? The true devil beasts were much more formidable than those controlled by a puppeteer. Chen Xiang immediately gave chase along the footprints. He knew that it was not far away from the ambush point. Before, with his battle against the black-armored crocodile, they had caused a huge ruckus, definitely disturbing the devil sect disciples at the nearest ambush point. He believed that the next ambush point would not have any devil sect disciples. Following those footprints, Chen Xiang, in his heart, was secretly surprised. There were some scratches on many trees in the front, and there were also a few trees which had been bitten off. According to his estimation, those being hunted were hiding in the trees. However, these wolves very quickly bitten off these trees. At most, 10 puppets can attack together. However, they will not be so fierce. But these true devil beasts are so frightening, and they are also in such a large number. Chen Xiang was secretly worried. Currently, he had already arrived at this kind of ghastly place, and of course, many of those devil beasts were much more powerful. He did not hope to see any righteous disciples dead. If he could save them, then he would definitely do his utmost to save them. He quickened his pace, and soon he saw blood on the ground. This kind of blood was certainly from those devil beasts, because it was different with human blood. Human blood would quickly dry up, but the devil beast's blood would remain sticky on the ground. "Junior brother, be careful!" A girl's shout came, which was then followed by a sound of battle. Chen Xiang immediately disappeared and rushed ahead with his fastest speed. Chapter 243 Red Wolves. Chapter 243 Red Wolves. It was originally a forest, however. In front of him there was a very open space, where one could see many tree roots, but no trees could be seen whatsoever. At that moment, Chen Xiang could see many wolves with completely red bodies gnawing on some trees while besieging 4 people. These red wolves were as big as adult cows, with a black vertical line in between their eyebrows, and 2 huge sharp red teeth protruding from their mouth, making them seem extremely terrifying. These red wolves' bodies were as if they had been soaked in blood, exuding a nauseating stench. The noxious devil chi they were releasing was nothing Chen Xiang had encountered before. It was even richer than the black wolves from before. It's the disciples of the true martial sect, 3 male and a female. Chen Xiang muttered. Those 3 men looked very handsome, while the female was extremely beautiful and moving. However, all of them were in a very sorry state at the moment. Their whole bodies were covered in black blood, while one man among them had his long sword broken. Before, he had saved disciples of the beast martial sect and the proud sword sect, and they repaid him by trying to kill him. Now he was considering whether he should save these people or not. Save them. In any case, it's just a matter of little effort for you. Furthermore, with your current strength, there is no need to be afraid of their retaliation. If they want to move against you, then you don't need to be polite either. Su Meiyao said. Chen Xiang lightly sighed before taking out the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade. He jumped over and landed in front of those 4. Chen Xiang. All 4 of them suddenly exclaimed together in unison while retreating 2 steps back. Their faces were now filled with panic. Chen Xiang looked at them, slightly smiled and said, "Don't worry, I didn't come to kill you." These true martial sect's disciples were not like the beast martial sect and the proud sword sect. From the expression in their eyes, Chen Xiang could determine that these 4 people were not the ones who could not wait to kill him. What was totally out of Chen Xiang's expectation was that, among these 4, the strongest was the girl who was just at the 3rd level of the true martial realm. The other 3 were all in the 1st level of the true martial realm, and it was no wonder to Chen Xiang that they would be hunted down till here. But seeing that they could ran so far was also not bad. Is there no 5th level true martial realm disciple left in your true martial sect? Chen Xiang asked with a frown. Although he had killed a lot of true martial sect disciples, the true martial sect could not have such little strength. We have, but the dean felt that we are useless, so he made us come here. The girl indignantly spoke. Her gaunt beautiful face was filled with anger and helplessness. The 3 men were also the same. At this point, the pack of red wolves swooped over. Chen Xiang fiercely turned around and waved his blade towards those wolves. Numerous azure lightning from the blade's tip madly surged out, and one after another, as if those lightning transformed into a giant blade, ruthlessly falling down on the ground, killing a greater part of the red wolves. Although these red wolves were powerful, when facing Chen Xiang with the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade in his hand, they were not worth a straw. With one strike, Chen Xiang had beheaded more than 100. On the count of 3, jump with all of your power, leave the ground. Chen Xiang hastily shouted, 1, 2, 3, jump. Although the 4 true martial sect's disciples didn't know what Chen Xiang was planning on doing, they still jumped up. Chen Xiang also jumped up with them as the red wolves surrounding them swarmed and swooped over. As he jumped into the air, a dazzling azure aura from Chen Xiang's palm suddenly flowed out. With a thunderous roar, he smacked a palm towards the ground. Through the majestic and powerful azure dragon True Qi, a huge azure palm appeared, and like a storm, the soaring True Qi plundered through all 4 directions as the huge palm fiercely landed on the ground. Boom! A loud explosion occurred. It was so loud that it made everyone's ear ache. The explosive sound echoed throughout the surroundings, while from below, the miserable howls of wolves soon followed. Many crevices appeared on the ground. The fierce tremor had made the giant trees in the greater part of forest to collapse in the blink of an eye. The ground was like a tide rolling through with a vast momentum. What had just happened was rather soul-stirring, sending S.H.I. Ver down the heart of those 4 disciples from the true martial sect. It was pretty hard for them to believe what had just happened. When they landed from the sky, they landed on top of a just created little mound. Majority of those red wolves were now buried in the soil. Thanks a lot for saving us. After the girl took a deep breath, she cupped her fist and spoke with a gratified tone. Her eyes were filled with respect. As for the other 3, they not only repeatedly thanked Chen Xiang, they also had a look of wars. Hi+P. There was not much difference between their age and Chen Xiang, and in fact, Chen Xiang was even a little younger than them, but he was already so powerful. With just a palm, he wiped out those red wolves, which almost killed their group in one fell swoop. This kind of strong martial artist was truly worthy of their respect. Although Chen Xiang and the true martial sect were enemies, Chen Xiang not only did not kill them, he had even saved them. This kind of chivalrous behavior made it harder for them to hate him. Not to mention that from the beginning, there was no direct hatred between them and Chen Xiang. First leave here. Chen Xiang smiled and said, leading the group. On one side, Chen Xiang was walking, while on the other, he warned them about the conspiracy of the Devil Path sects, and this scared the H.E.L.L. out of them. They completely believed Chen Xiang's words. At this time, Chen Xiang came to know that all 4 of them didn't have any status in their sect. Although they were in the true martial realm at such a young age, the true martial sect's dean was worried about the death of some disciples with high potential. That was why he elected to just send these 4. You don't need to be worried. As long as we work together, we would eventually walk out alive from here. Chen Xiang comforted them. All of their faces were filled with sadness, because they knew they were the weakest in here, while the lineup of the other sects was rather strong. Both the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire and the Icewind Valley had sent their strongest disciples. Shui Xian and Ling Yulan, these kind of talented and outstanding girls were sent. The extreme martial sect had also sent 10, and there was no need to question Chen Xiang's strength. Thanks a lot, Chen Xiang. The girl thanked in a light tone. Chen Xiang, I didn't expect your character to be so good. It is way different from what those elders told us, a heinous devil beyond redemption. A slightly young boy laughed and said, as long as no one attacked me, I will not attack them either. Liao Xiaoyun from your true martial sect first took action against me and almost killed me. Because of my bounty, the others also came to attack me. Otherwise, I wouldn't even bother with them. Chen Xiang said, all of these weirdos are too greedy and too arrogant, otherwise, they will not create so much noise. A man said, don't say this anywhere else. After you return to the true martial sect, it is best that you don't mention that I have saved you. It's for the better if none of you talk about it, otherwise, your dean or Liao Xiaoyun, both of them would become even more hostile to you. Chen Xiang smiled and said, no, I want to speak. As long as I leave here in one piece, I'll separate myself from the true martial sect. They don't look at as a human, not even a little bit. The girl coldly harumphed. This kind of personality made Chen Xiang greatly appreciate her. One by one, the 3 men also voiced out their thoughts. The true marital sect had sent them here to die, which made them hold a grudge in their heart. Chen Xiang's eyes lit up, laughed and said, if you have no place to go after leaving the true martial sect, you can always come find me in the extreme martial sect. Chapter 244 Wei Hongdao. Chapter 244 Wei Hongdao TLN. This chapter is sponsored by Raffle Brodziak and Giannis Mokri. Thanks for your support. Chen Xiang was drawing them in. Those 4 true martial sect disciples could also see that clearly. However, they thought Chen Xiang was going to make them enter the extreme martial sect, which was impossible in the Qinwu mainland. Once someone entered a sect, they could never enter another sect ever again. Even if they left, the other sect would still not receive them. Chen Xiang told them the route back. He had left many marks along the way as he was traveling. As long as those marks were found, one could very easily reach the outermost periphery simply by backtracking these marks, then they could converge with disciples of the other sections. Chen Xiang still had some leftover business here, after all. He still had not found the disciples from Lotus Island or Danxiang Taoyuan. Danxiang Taoyuan and the extreme martial sect had pretty good relations, so Chen Xiang did not need to worry about getting attacked by them. As for the Lotus Island, Chen Xiang had yet to come in contact with them. Although Lotus Island was located near the Saore, they were in charge of a greater portion of the Qinwu mainland. As such, they were also one of the relatively stronger forces. After the true martial sect's disciples left, Chen Xiang continued on his journey to the next known ambush point, to see if he could find the disciples of Danxiang Taoyuan and Lotus Island. Just as Chen Xiang entered the ghastly forest, his hair stood up on its ends. The noxious aura surrounding them was extremely dense, accompanied by an extremely nauseating stench. Suddenly, a red aura flashed through the dark forest. Chen Xiang felt a cold SHI+V run down his spine before he hastily reacted by jumping into the air. He was drenched in cold sweat as he saw the ground he stood on a moment ago replaced with a deep gully dug out by that red aura. If that attack had landed on him, the aftermath would have been disastrous. Both the speed and strength from that earlier blow was quite frightening. However, the most crucial factor was its concealing ability. If not for Chen Xiang having gone through countless fights, allowing his instincts to help him react in a split second, he would have been killed. Ha ha! With utter astonishment, Chen Xiang suddenly heard a very sharp, ear-piercing laughter that could cause anyone who heard it have goosebumps. UMPS. After Chen Xiang landed on the ground, he immediately took out the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade. At this moment, that blood-red aura flashed once again. Chen Xiang had already made preparations to deal with any kind of attack with his blade. Using the huge body of the blade, Chen Xiang resisted the powerful oncoming attack. It came from a very long sword, completely blood-red, glistening in a crimson light. The person holding the sword surprised Chen Xiang even more. It was a young man with shoulder-length hair, which was also blood-red. Even his eyes were bloodshot, and he seemed like a very bizarre and frightening monster. The young man suddenly opened his mouth, and a very long red tongue stretched out. He licked that blood-red long sword, making the scene look even more hair-raising and bizarre. Chen Xiang retreated a few steps before he coldly asked, "Who are you?" He was sure this guy was a disciple of a devil sect. Moreover, he was definitely very strong. TSK. The red-haired man shook his head and sneered. "You are Chen Xiang, the top youngest martial artist of the extreme martial sect, with name reverberating like thunder. I had not thought you were so ignorant. You really don't know who I am?" Chen Xiang snorted, said, "I don't know exactly who you are, but you're definitely a disciple of a devil path sect. That being the case, I'll introduce myself so that you can die knowing who's responsible for your death. However, it seems my reputation is not widespread. You actually don't know who I am." The red-haired man suddenly put on a red gown and proudly said, "I'm Wei Hongdao of the Blood Refining Clan." Chen Xiang frowned. The Blood Refining Clan was one of the strongest among the 5 major devil sections. He had indeed heard a little about Wu Hongdao. His age was similar to Chen Xiang's, and both of them possessed frightening strength at such a young age along with stunning talent. However, in light of their reputations, Wei Hongdao and Chen Xiang were miles apart. Wei Hongdao was truly a devil. He specifically slaughtered civilians in cold blood. Burning and looting were just some of his deeds. He had committed many unimaginable crimes. "You came here to die?" Chen Xiang squinted his eyes. Killing this kind of devil would allow his state of mind to reach sublimation. He would never have any scruples to attack people like Wei Hongdao. Not to mention the fact that Chen Xiang had just strided into the 5th level of the true martial realm, and had been worried he would have no opportunity to try out his newfound strength. The Devil Path sect actually sent a disciple with such high potential into this battle. It was totally out of Chen Xiang's expectations. One must know there were not that many true martial realm martial artists in the Devil Path sects. It was much less than the righteous sections. As for outstanding disciples, they were even fewer. Humph, you really have a big mouth. Don't think with your little reputation, you have the right to be arrogant in front of me. Aren't you just lucky and managed to create some large commotion just because of fortunate opportunities? Let me tell you, not to mention you with this sort of strength, even a 9th-level true martial realm martial artist would die by my hands. Wei Hongdao furiously said, while he swiftly and violently brandished his blade very fast. It was like a red lightning bolt suddenly shot towards Chen Xiang. In the case that Chen Xiang was prepared, this kind of speed was still very easy to deal with. Moreover, he had already been vigilant. When Wei Hongdao attacked, Chen Xiang also brandished his azure dragon slaughtering devil blade at the same time. With an azure flash, the two weapons collided together. Qi waves burst forth one after the other from the impact as a storm burst forth that even made the trees around them smashed into mere splinters in the blink of an eye. Even while just chatting, a casual wave of their weapons could result in such a frightening shockwave. It even seemed that their strength was equal. The blood-refining clan was a devil path sect which made people terror-stricken just from hearing their name because of their sect's blood-refining great devil technique, which was simply cultivation using blood. Under this technique, the cultivator required a vast amount of blood during the cultivation, while crystal stones were thrown in the sea of blood. The cultivator immersed themselves within this concoction. This way of cultivation was already very nauseating. However, what made everyone intolerable of this method of cultivation was that all the blood was obtained through killing powerless mortals in order to procure that vast amount of blood quickly. It was also this reason that no members of the righteous sects could allow the Devil Path sects to grow, otherwise the majority of the civilians from the Qinwu mainland would become nothing more than a disposable resource for the cultivation of the Devil Path sections. Wei Hongdao's feet moved a bit, but he firmly held his ground. Although his face was unspeakably dignified, it was also a bit red. From Chen Xiang's blow, Wei Hongdao could roughly gauge his opponent's strength, which was a lot stronger than the rumor had stated. It was said that Chen Xiang was only in the 2nd level of the true martial realm, and by relying on mysterious martial skills and his powerful blade, his true strength would be able to contend with someone in the 5th level of the true martial realm. Of course, it also mentioned that Chen Xiang had another status that Wei Hongdao couldn't overlook. As an alchemist, Chen Xiang could eat his own dawn, which was a very easy and smooth course for cultivation. The true qi gained would be even more rich, and the advancement of cultivation was definitely not slow. Chen Xiang had a look of ease on his face. Although Wei Hongdao was in the 5th level of the true martial realm, and the true qi in his body was very tyrannical, it was not vigorous enough. The explosive force was strong, but it was not sustainable. After both of them faced each other's strike, they were silent for a moment, before attacking once again. This time, it was actually Chen Xiang who took action first. However, just as he started his attack, Wei Hongdao immediately retaliated. The azure dragon slaughtering devil blade flashed towards Wei Hongdao within the blink of an eye. An increasingly dense azure aura and incomparably fierce, imposing atmosphere weighed down on him as the cleaving strike seemed to split heaven and earth apart. Weighing 100,000 genes, the blow still cleaved like lightning and instantly struck down with an imposing heaven-shocking aura. At the same time the blade was drawn, it made a clean sweep of everything around them. Before it, the dark clouds in the sky trundled. The fierce wind erupted in between the mountains. This earth-shattering and nature-altering strike shocked Wei Hongdao to no end. He suddenly felt like his attempt at a counterattack was very, very small and insignificant. Chapter 245, Finally Gathered. Chapter 245, Finally Gathered TLN. This chapter is sponsored by Giannis Mokri. Thanks for your support. Originally, Wei Hongdao thought that his strength was equal or even beyond Chen Xiang's by a wide margin. However, he didn't expect Chen Xiang to actually have such a frightening blade technique. When this blade strike was coming, he practically saw a large wave with thunder and lightning envelop him. At this moment it was already too late to dodge. So, he could only block with his long blade and exhaust all his true qi. The blade strike Chen Xiang had used was the wave strike of the Dragon Slayer's 7 killing cut. It was incomparably overbearing and contained infinite power. This was the first time he had used this technique, and its might had shocked Chen Xiang too. Although Wei Hongdao's red long blade was an 8th level spirit weapon, when facing with the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade, this divine weapon, it appeared to be insignificant. During the oncoming cleave of the huge blade, the blade body was wrapped in a layer of transparent and formidable power. It was full of destruction, and it carried unparalleled destructive force as it hacked towards Wei Hongdao's head. When Wei Hongdao felt that tremendous true qi, his heart varied with fear. As soon as Chen Xiang's huge blade collided with his red blade, the red blade instantly shattered into pieces. He was already cornered, and in the next moment, an excruciating pain erupted from his body. The Dragon Slayer's 7 killing cut was originally used to kill dragons. It had tyrannical might as well as a fierce, imposing manner. There was no way for a human to withstand it, and trying to do so only had one end: annihilation. After Wei Hongdao was cut with that terrifying power released by the wave strike, he vanished in a puff of smoke along with his blade. Chen Xiang kept his blade, and with a calm look, he left the area. He was in the 5th level of the true martial realm, and only someone higher than the 6th level of the true martial realm could make him raise his guard. After all, it was already difficult to find an opponent in the same level as him. After crossing a few high mountains, when Chen Xiang was halfway up a mountain, he suddenly saw slight movements among the trees not far away from him. Looking carefully, he saw many people running in the forest. In front, the disciples of the Lotus Island and Danxiang Taoyuan were running, while from behind, they were being chased by a large crowd of human devils. It was quite clear that those human devil were not manipulated by anyone. Otherwise they would not be so violent, nor would so many of them give chase to humans all at once. Chen Xiang rushed down, and with a few jumps, he arrived behind the disciples. After those disciples saw Chen Xiang, for some unknown reason, they heaved a sigh of relief in their heart. Everyone just saw Chen Xiang wielding both of his palms, striking them continuously. Rumbles relentlessly echoed out, and with each palm strike, the ground would severely tremble. Wherever the waves from his palms went, the ground would split and the trees would be uprooted. The shocking heaven palm was like fierce winds and mighty waves. As Chen Xiang continuously struck like waves after waves, the majority of those mindless and violent human devils were simultaneously hit. Near the place where the socking heavenly palm landed, either both blood and meat flew everywhere, or the human devils would spat out black blood as their whole body lay paralyzed. As for those far-away violent human devils struck by the qi waves, the true qi within their body turned even more tyrannical, and as such, many human devils weren't able to control the fluctuations of true qi, causing them to be injured from their very own true qi. In just a few moments, Chen Xiang had struck tens of shocking heaven palm, and this kind of power, which shook heaven and earth and overturned the mountain and sea, made the Lotus Islands and the Danxiang Taoyuan's disciples extremely horrified. If it was them in place of those human devils, the result would not be any different. In their front, the forest already no longer exists, and a large part of the trees had all been destroyed by Chen Xiang's shocking heaven palm. Those 200 to 300 human devils were either turned into abloody pulp from the vigorous palm force, or were all torn apart, completely collapsed on the ground. Chen Xiang frowned. He suddenly felt a great movement from far away, as if 10,000 horses were galloping. He reckoned a large number of devil beasts were Rus. Hi+ing, so he quickly cried, "Walk quickly!" There were 7 disciples from the Danxiang Taoyuan and 6 from the Lotus Island, besides a few who were injured. The rest of them were all fine. They didn't recklessly fight to death with those human devils, but instead they only chose to flee. Otherwise they wouldn't have been alive till now. They all knew that they did not come here to fight to death. Rather, they came here to survive. All the way, everyone was running. Chen Xiang, with them, was quite close to the depths of the wasteland. In here, the devil beasts were rather large in number, and all of them were quite powerful. Plus, having so many people in the periphery of the wasteland would produce large movement, very easily disturbing some powerful fellows in the depths, and this was something Chen Xiang didn't want to happen. Everyone has been found, however. The beast martial sect and the proud sword sect's disciples were not only ungrateful, they even chose to attack Chen Xiang, and thus, they were all annihilated by him. However, it was not more than 10 people, and those devil sect disciples had more casualties. After continuously running for 3 days, Chen Xiang finally brought the disciples of the Danxiang Taoyuan and the Lotus Island to meeting point. After coming here, Chen Xiang noticed many corpses laid on the ground, and all of them were either of human devils or of devil beasts. These past few days, all of them has been very vigilant, and although their face was filled with worry, after seeing Chen Xiang arrive, they finally heaved a sigh of relief. Every one had the very same look. All of them could not bear to smile, because they were all aware that they were in a very precarious position, especially against those powerful devil beasts. Chen Xiang, after seeing a large head of a wolf, immediately knew that these devil beasts weren't controlled, and they came from the depth. "Are all of you all right?" Chen Xiang asked. "We're all right. Fortunately, we were all together, otherwise we would have been eaten by those pack of wolves," Ling Yulan said. When thinking about those frightening devil beasts, a terrified look once again appeared on her face. The ground was completely covered in traces of fierce battle. All of them were forced to act together, and only then was it killed. Such deed was certainly marvelous, and even for Chen Xiang, perhaps it would have been difficult to complete, unless he borrowed Long Xue's strength. "We have already buried a lot of corpses. Younger brother Chen, you didn't know, but we were besieged by a few groups of devil beasts and human devils. However, their corpses didn't have anything valuable, and we didn't really make money this time." Zhu Rong complained. His face was completely filled with a look of fatigue, as though the battle against the pack of wolves happened very recently. The disciples of the righteous sect were only 40, but the devil sect's disciples were much more than them, and most of them could even control these devil beasts and human devils. Thinking of this point, many of them secretly started to get worried. They were all anxious if they would be caught and used as a sacrifice. Observing everyone's complexion, which was filled with dread and without the least bit of morale, Chen Xiang knew that it was no good, so he shouted, "Who can create an array? A defensive array?" Seeing no one replied, Chen Xiang sighed in his heart, but at this very moment Xue Xianxian said in a small voice, "Brother Xiang, I can a little bit. However, a lot of crystal stones are required for an array. High-grade and top-grade crystal stones are a must." Ling Yulan also came beside Chen Xiang and said, "Brother, I also know a little bit. What type of array should I draw?" After thinking it through, Chen Xiang was able to understand that both Xue Xianxian and Ling Yulan were personally taught by Lu Menger. Lu Menger was a grand refiner, and with regards to array spirit patterns, she was of course proficient. Xue Xianxian and Ling Yulan being able to understand them was not strange. "I don't have high-grade crystal stones, but I have a few top-grade crystal stones." Everyone was secretly shocked. Before, when they were fighting against the human devils and devil beasts, both Xue Xianxian and Ling Yulan had shown quite a lot of power. Both of them were rather formidable. Their attacks were overbearing and brutal, causing many men to feel ashamed. And now they would have never expected both of them to call Chen Xiang as brother, and it even seems that their relations, Hi+P, was also quite excellent. This made many of them to feel somewhat jealous. Chapter 246 Working Together. Chapter 246 Working Together. Chen Xiang selected a hill, and then explained his plan to everybody. His plan was to dig some cave inside this hill and hid inside there. He was planning to have them wait for the rest of the next 2 months there, and in order to ensure safety, he suggested to also dug another tunnel inside, which would be connected another side. If it still could not turn the tables against their attackers, then they could escape from that tunnel. We will also arrange a large formation, so if we encountered a powerful guy, then we can just open the formation. That way we can resist for some time while everybody escapes from the other tunnel. Chen Xiang said. Everyone here had received the help of Chen Xiang, so they had no objection, and they very much supported Chen Xiang. Okay, for the start, everyone should divide the labor and work in cooperation. Those who are in the 4th level true martial realm and above should go and patrol, lest we are raided. Xian and Yulan will proceed to lay out the formation, and as for the others, they should go and dig the tunnel. There is no need for the female disciples to dig, just go help in arranging the large formation. Chen Xiang said. Zhu Rong curled his lips and said, Younger brother Chen, you can't be lazy, you also have to dig the tunnels with us. Yun Xiaodao nodded his head and said, Yes, elder brother Chen, you need to be fair. The 4th level or 5th level true martial realm disciples were here to protect them, which would allow the others to dig at ease. That was why there was no objection. Chen Xiang curled his lips. Hey, I'm already in 5th level of the true martial realm, so I don't need to dig. Everyone was shocked. All of them always thought he was in the 2nd or 3rd level of the true martial realm, and the reason he could exert such as a terrifying strength was because he was relying on a powerful blade and a mysterious martial skill. However, according to Chen Xiang, he was already at the 5th level of the true martial realm. They thought that wouldn't that mean his strength was now comparable to a 6th or 7th level true martial realm martial artist. True or false? Zhu Rong was somewhat in disbelief. He knew that Chen Xiang, at the 3rd level of the true martial realm, could very well imitate the strength of a martial artist in the 5th level of the true martial realm. Yun Xiaodao, as well as everyone else, were also staring at Chen Xiang in disbelief. Shui Xian and Ling Yulan, who had been very trusting to Chen Xiang, felt that Chen Xiang's sudden increase of cultivation was inconceivable. Have you heard of Wei Hongtao? A while back, I have finished him off in the forest. Chen Xiang smiled and said. Wei Hongtao was an infamous young martial artist in the Devil Path sect. In the 5th level of the true martial realm, he was able to kill a 6th level true martial realm martial artist. I, with a single blade strike, beheaded him. If you don't believe, does any of you dare to try? Chen Xiang laughed and said. Hearing that he beheaded Wei Hongtao with a blade strike, everyone gulped a cold lump in their throat. Before, they had heard a very large commotion coming from the forest, and they of course knew that it was Chen Xiang's deed. But hearing it from Chen Xiang himself, now they couldn't help but believe it. After knowing Chen Xiang's accurate strength, everyone felt a lot more at ease. In here, there were several alchemists, and with their help, they could recover quickly. Brother, are you not going to search for the disciples of the Beast Martial Sect and the Proud Sword Sect? Ling Yulan asked. Chen Xiang sneered. No need to search for them. Those ungrateful bastards have been chopped by me. I, in order to save them, wrestled with a powerful devil beast, and finally I was seriously injured, but those guys coveted my treasured blade, and in turn, they came to kill me. Fortunately, I still had a little bit of strength left. Brother Xiang, were your injuries serious? Shui Xian hastily ran over, held Chen Xiang's wrist. She very much wanted to check on Chen Xiang's injuries. I'm completely fine. Not to mention that because of them, I have entered the 5th level of the true martial realm. Chen Xiang squeezed her face, smiled and said. Yun Xiaodao coldly snorted, those guys can go to H.E.L.L. after we leave this D.A.M. Ned place. Let's inform the Dean, they'll destroy the Beast Martial Sect and the Proud Sword Sect. Once the other sect's disciples heard their conversation, they were completely astonished. Prior to coming here, Gu Dongchen had stated that whoever dared to make a move on Chen Xiang, their sect would be completely finished. After they leave, a reign of terror was definite. Gu Dongchen had already cut the Dean of the Beast Martial Sect before, and now it was not difficult to extinguish the Beast Martial Sect. Not to mention the Proud Sword Sect was not on well terms with many other sects, and they even had history of colluding with Devil Path sects, because they wanted to seize the crystal stone mine of the Extreme Martial Sect. This caused a rift between both of the sections. In the hill, a relatively big stone room along with many smaller stone rooms were dug out. The entire hill was made of hard black stone. It was very difficult to dig. However, when encountered a concentration of attacks, it wasn't able to withstand much longer. The escape paths sage lead to a forest far away, which was only decided after discussing with many people. The opposite of this forest was precisely that canyon which disappeared, and the trees in that place were relatively bigger. The ground was also hard, all of it was made of very hard stone. If they encountered a group attack, then they could use the lush trees to resist. Among the 40 people, only 7 were girls, and no more than 13 were in or above the 4th level of the true marital realm. They made a big part of the group, that was why only 20 were now digging the tunnels. But even if the stone was hard, for true marital realm martial artists, it was a piece of cake. Using their vigorous true qi and spirit weapons, it was not too difficult to dig up. Ling Yulan and Xue Xiang lead the 5 girls to the array. This kind of careful work could only be finished better if it was done by girls. Chen Xiang, from time to time, was watching at the creation of the array. The females also had to do hard work. They had to carve very fine lines on the ground and on the rigid stone wall. Also, there was no room for mistakes. Furthermore, both Xue Xianxian and Ling Yulan would release some cold qi on the ground to make some markings for the other girls to dig. After they were done marking the ground, they would also partake 1p8 in digging. Qianqian, your flame is very formidable, and you can easily create fine lines. If this goes on, then we would be finished quite early. Xue Xianxian exclaimed. She saw Wu Qianqian, with just a finger, draw on the rigid ground, as if it was in an ordinary mud. Although there was no flame on Wu Qianqian's jade-like finger, the heat it released could still be felt. Haha, my flames are only formidable. I'm still not like you, Xianxian. Not only do you know how to create arrays, you're also so formidable. Wu Qianqian laughed and said. Ling Yulan said, Qianqian, you flames are marvelous. I also use flames, but I'm unable to use flames like you. She, by infusing the flames in her spirit-grade dagger, very carefully started carving some lines on the ground. The other girls were doing marking the ground in unison. All of them were either using their own spirit weapon or true qi. Are the carvings here correct? Chen Xiang walked over and asked. But it still needs a very long time to finish. The top of the mountain, the foot of the mountain, and the circumference of the entire mountain should also have some carvings. Xue Xianxian replied. This old lady was originally not cut out for this careful work. However, the dean insisted on pa's. Sing it to me. Ling Yulan lightly snorted. She seemed anxious to draw the big sword on her back and ruthlessly hack it on the ground. Chen Xiang slightly smiled and said, Yulan, then you can go dig the caves. Leave the rest to me. You alone? A girl asked. This was the true martial sect's disciple, Yu Yandai. Chen Xiang nodded his head. They only saw him wave his arm, before many small specks of flame accurately fell on those drawing on the ground. Xue Xianxian and Ling Yulan had spent most of the day in carving these marks, They were now covered in frost and it was very easy to identify them. Once Chen Xiang's divine sense was transmitted, those small specks of fire suddenly landed onto the ground. Afterwards they began to move, burning the ground as easy as burning ice. Not long after, many lines appeared very quickly and easily, and this made all those girls extremely surprised. Everyone, without any exception, looked at Chen Xiang in admiration. Once those small fire specks were extinguished, Chen Xiang would then wave his hand again, releasing more of those small fire specks. Chapter 247 Profound Fire Exquisite Tower. Chapter 247 Profound Fire Exquisite Tower TLN. Yet another chapter sponsored by Giannis Mockery. Thank you for your support. Edian, you're helping Ash buy a car. 3. Leng Yulan patted Chen Xiang's shoulder, laughed and said, "Brother, you're really awesome." Shui Xianxian played with her white hair, tenderly smiled and said, "Good sister, you quickly go and dig. Making you do this kind of delicate work has truly wronged you." Ling Yulan open-heartedly smiled, pulled the big sword on her back and ran towards a cave. The other girls also followed her behind. They all didn't want to remain idle, and they also wanted to contribute. Although they were girls, they could not show any weakness. "Qianqian, you should also do the same, give it a try," Chen Xiang said. Although he was faster compared to those girls, it would still need some time before the formation would be completed. And even after finus HI+ing, there was still a lot of after-work left to do. Wu Qianqian nodded her head. She imitated Chen Xiang and released some small specks of fire from her hands. However, she could only release 5 specks of fire, unlike Chen Xiang who released many. At this time, Wu Qianqian realized how frightening the divine sense that was needed in controlling the movements of these specks of fire, and she also realized the amount of heat in order to burn the ground. This made her aware of her own inadequacies, especially the difference between herself and Chen Xiang. "Brother Xiang, how many top-grade crystal stones do you have?" Shui Xianxian asked. "How many top-grade crystal stones do you need to lay out this formation?" Chen Xiang asked. Shui Xianxian furrowed her brows and slightly pondered for a while before speaking, "Probably 300 or so. This is the profound fire exquisite tower formation taught by my teacher. It is very suitable in this kind of mountainous terrain. You can turn this hill into a tower-like structure, and it would generally be useful as a defensive structure. It would need a large amount of flames though." Chen Xiang took out a rather large piece of top-grade crystal stone and handed it to Xianxian. "This should be enough." Shui Xianxian stuck out her tongue, tenderly laughed and said, "Brother Xiang, you are truly overflowing with riches. No wonder Zhu Lao always wanted me to inquire about your things, but also ask me to speak good things about him in front of you." These days, Shui Xianxian became familiar with Chen Xiang's friends, and at the same time, she also came to know some of Chen Xiang's deeds from them. Not to mention Yun Xiaodao, Zhu Rong and the others were all very interesting too. However, what made it unbearable for her was, Yao Haixing actually called her mistress with a straight face. After Chen Xiang came to know, his belly almost burst. He certainly knew Yao Haixing already didn't hate him. He knew that it was not wise to do so. Chen Xiang once again gave many middle-aged crystal stones to Shui Xianxian. They were also used in the large formation. Chen Xiang had no shortage of these crystal stones, and he didn't felt any heartache giving them away. On the contrary, Wu Qianqian and Shui Xianxian were both very surprised. Chen Xiang's wealth was simply amazing. Shui Xianxian carefully cut those top-grade crystal stones, and only after 1 hour of meticulous cutting was she finished. At this time, she called Leng Yulan and asked her to help her in setting these crystal stones in their designated place. After finus HI+ing setting them up, they still needed to infuse these carvings with pure fire-attributed true qi. And with all the crystal stones linked up, the large formation would then be up and running. What caused Chen Xiang to become surprised was Shui Xianxian actually knew how to use fire. Before, He had only seen her use cold true qi, but now, he suddenly understood that Xue Xianxian also had fire and ice veins, and Lu Menjie was also the same. That was also why she took her in as her apprentice. Chen Xiang's master and senior apprentice brother both had yin and yang veins. Lu Menjie herself had fire and ice veins. That was why she carefully nurtured Leng Yulan and Xue Xianxian. He knew that the rank of Xue Xianxian's fire and ice veins were definitely not low, and at least, it was heaven-level vein, or perhaps, it could even be a divine vein. Otherwise, she would not advance so quickly. A whole day said, and the entire hill was completely covered in crisscrossed lines. In between these lines, a crystal stone was placed. Xue Xianxian had evenly embedded those 300 top-grade crystal stones in the large formation. It was also the first time for Leng Yulan and her to lay out this large formation. At the end, both Xue Xianxian and Leng Yulan were quite doubtful, because the way to lay out the formation they had learned was exactly the same. However, they understood very well the relation of the divine weapon Heavenly Empire and the Icewind Valley. That was why they were not that suspicious. Chen Xiang promised Lu Menjie that he would not tell Xue Xianxian and Leng Yulan about her ident. 1. Tai, but now it seemed Lu Menjie had been very good to the both of them and also taught them the same things. The only thing it is lacking is powerful flames. Elder brother, your flames are more formidable, and its density is also very high. If your flames filled this large formation, maybe it could make this large formation become more powerful. Leng Yulan said. Under everyone's cooperation, the large formation was finally finished. Tunnels as well as the underground sage were dug, while the fourth-level true martial realm martial artists and above had also fended some attacks from the devil beasts and human devils. Although they encountered many problems, in the end it was all resolved. Chen Xiang took a leap, jumped up to the hilltop and said, "I'll give it a try." Suddenly, on his body, flames emerged, and scorching qi waves suddenly surged towards every directions. Regarding these kind of flames, everyone felt extremely surprised. They now understood why Chen Xiang, at such a young age, was a fourth-level alchemist. Relying on this kind of flame, he was truly worthy of his Tli. Chen Xiang, with his fearsome divine sense, controlled the overflowing flames and directed them into those tiny indentations inside the formation. His flames, at this moment, were thoroughly compressed, appearing very small. But in truth, a small speck of it could casually burn the whole forest. Leng Yulan and Xue Xianxian, using their divine sense, guided Chen Xiang's flames into those carvings inside. At the same time, they made the flames flow into the embedded crystal stones so that they would fuse together. Otherwise, those crystal stones would explode from the incineration of flames. On that hill, there was a good several hundred thousands of crystal stones, and the thought of them exploding at the same time was extremely terrifying. At night, in a pitch-black wasteland, a small hill was glittering in red light. The hill was completely covered in fiery red spirit patterns, which appeared very beautiful as well as extremely profound. Chen Xiang, in a steady stream, continued to release many flames, almost consuming his entire vermilion bird true qi. The richness of his true qi also made everyone feel shocked, especially those who utilize fire. Chen Xiang's flames were originally very frightening, and in their opinion, Chen Xiang could not release it for too long. But at this moment, several hours had already passed, and the flames being released by Chen Xiang did not show any signs of weakening. Finished! Leng Yulan and Xue Xiang, at the same time, tenderly shouted. Their forehead was sweating profusely, because they had consumed too much of their divine sense. Usually, when they were cultivating, Lu Menjie was very demanding with them, especially with regards to their divine sense. That was why their divine sense wasn't lacking. Many disciples arrived at the same time, and at this moment, there was too much of a difference between themselves and those young and famous disciples. If it was them, they simply could not hold for so long. They obviously knew others had given a lot effort. Chen Xiang retracted the flames and took a deep breath. On the hill, those red spirit patterns also immediately disappeared, and even those carved lines had not trace left. This made many secretly amazed. They had personally seen the others lay out a large formation, but all of a sudden, not even a trace was left. These spirit patterns were originally very mystical, and after the spirit patterns absorbed Chen Xiang's flames, Chen Xiang didn't feel surprised from what occurred next. If this hill was besieged, what do we do if they broke the large formation? Zhu Rong worriedly asked. He knew a lot of crystal stones were used, and although the crystal stones were not his, it still made his heart bleed as if it was his. Rest assured, this large formation has already been integrated. Unless all its strength has been consumed, or the formation's base was destroyed by someone who knew how to break the formation, it would not be destroyed. Of course, this large formation is mainly for stalling time, allowing everybody to escape using the underground tunnel. If it is just some underlings, we ourselves will simply finish them off, Ling Yulan said. Chapter 248 Greater Crisis. Chapter 248 Greater Crisis. The devil sect disciples and those ordinary devil beasts and human devils simply did not pose any threat to them. However, what they were afraid of was encountering those terrifying devil beasts, such as pack leaders or ancient beasts from remote antiquities, like the black-armored crocodile Chen Xiang had encountered before. Of course, this level of devil beasts were somewhat manageable, but if even more powerful beings showed up, like those who reached the extreme state, they would have no way to resist. Inside the hill, everyone was together in a circle eating some sort of meat from a demon beast. This had all been provided by Zhu Rong, only he would carry so much food. 2 months, only a little amount of time has said. I'm worried about that altar. This is a huge opportunity for those devil path cultivators to turn things around. They've definitely made backup plans. As long as the altar is there, they are able to communicate with individuals from the devil domain. With their help, they could still do many things. Chen Xiang sighed. Looking at the terrain of the southern wasteland, it was almost certain that many powerful existences had been sealed inside. Moreover, there was also a mysterious altar inside. It was quite evident that these must have been left behind from the last great war between the 3 heavenly realms. I could go with you to destroy that altar, Hao Dongqing suggested. Chen Xiang shook his head and said, Senior brother Hao, you stay here. I'll check it out alone first. If I can't destroy it alone, then I'll come back and we can go together. Hao Dongqing was in the 5th level of the true marital realm and could be considered somewhat powerful, but Chen Xiang going alone was much more convenient given his abilities. Brother, I'll go with you, Ling Yulan said. To travel the world with Chen Xiang has been her dream for a very long time. Yulan, this place needs you, be obedient, Chen Xiang replied. Ling Yulan was also not weak. There were many second-level or first-level true martial realm martial artists here, but they didn't have any means to retaliate when facing those devil sect disciples. In order to win, many people needed to remain alive, and to ensure that, stronger martial artists were required to stay behind to guard. Ling Yulan was somewhat disappointed, but still nodded her head. This is a messaging rune. If there's anything urgent, as long as the rune is burned, I will know. Chen Xiang handed Hao Dongqing the rune. Chen Xiang had obtained this from those free immortal sea disciples he had killed before. Chen Xiang already had decided to go to the altar, but if this place was not safe, he would not be at ease. But now he could go and search for altar without worry. Chen Xiang knew the location of the altar, however. It was relatively deeper into the southern wasteland. In other words, there were also many powerful human devils and devil beasts in his way. The disciples of devil sects had all gathered together. They had not expected they would suffer so many casualties and even lose Wei Hongdan. Things didn't just end there either. It was unlike what they had planned, and far worse. Your 100 Poison sect has been flinching, not the little bit useful, Are you good now? Not only did you not captured anyone, you've also disturbed the monsters in depths? A man shouted. These devil sect disciples were hiding in the ground. They all wore a black robe with a hood. All of them had the same outfit on. Humph, we, the 100 Poison Sect, specialize in usage of poisons. Don't you already know how we are in regards to others' respects? If no one cooperated with us, we simply could not approach closer to them. It's really windy here too. Any kind of poisonous air would be blown away, and could also cause our own side to be poisoned. Our hidden weapons also cannot be used against these kind of formidable righteous disciples. Ahoa! RS, E-Sound retorted. Now they're all are hiding. They seem to be aware of our plot, but how could they have found out? We would all rather die than speak. If they don't enter the forests, we simply cannot ambush them and can only fight a head-on battle. It's almost like there's not enough of us to kill from the aftermath of the battle. Besides, Boss Wei might also be dead. A lamenting sharp and demonic voice came. It seems we can only try that way, an old sound said. Chen Xiang nimbly leapt through the mountain forest. He encountered a lot of devil beasts and human devils, but he was extremely quick, and managed to escape from those bunch of devil creatures. He was currently somewhat suspicious. It seemed these human devils and devil beasts knew there were humans in nearby. Do these guys have very strong sensibility? Chen Xiang muttered, before Shui Xianxian and the others at the converging point has been attacked by wave after waves of devil beasts and human devils. Now they were once again rust. Hi+ing towards that place. Chen Xiang could not help but be worried as he sped up towards the altar. These devils, beasts and human devils are all in true martial realm. But their intelligence is very common. Even if their sense of smell is extremely sensitive, they would never think of rust. Hi+ing towards some faraway place unless. Su Meiyao's tone became solemn. This group is being directed by a powerful individual. The southern wasteland is an ancient battlefield. Maybe those powerful demon or devils from time immemorial are here. They may be sealed up, but they could still use their divine sense. Bai Yuyu's voice turned even colder. Qin Xiang's whole body quivered from shock. Are those formidable guys sealed in the depths making these devil beasts and human devils grab humans in order to open the altar and free themselves? At this point, not only the devil sect disciples wanted to free them, those old BASTARDS were trying to free themselves. Things have become more and more serious, which increased Chen Xiang's determination to destroy the altar. Their guess was definitely fairly accurate. Long Shui said, if that's the case, then those powerful guys are still sealed. Hurry up and destroy the altar. If they come out, then the situation would be too horrible to describe. Who the hell? I was responsible for this place during the Three-Realm Great Battle? In remote antiquity they actually left such dangerous beings. Chen Xiang secretly cursed. Some guys are too formidable and very hard to kill. One only can seal them. Long Shui said. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu were both silent, especially Su Meiyao. Chen Xiang found she seemed to be worried about something, and didn't have her previous demeanor with that enchanting smiling expression. These groups of human devils and beasts devils chased Chen Xiang for a while before giving up. It seemed like they were under control of someone, but Chen Xiang would not allow these groups to go and besiege those disciples in the small hill. Chen Xiang jumped up in the air and smacked a palm towards the ground. Universal True Qi transformed into a huge transparent palm, fiercely pressing down on the earth, turning those devil creatures into patties one by one. Chen Xiang, be careful. If these things are being controlled by someone, they might know what happened here. Plus, you are now on your way to altar. Perhaps that guy might arrange some powerful creature to try and block you. Su Meiyao exhorted in serious tone. Not long after Su Meiyao's words fell, a low-spirited and gloomy beastly roars came from ahead, making the dark wasteland even more frightening. The blowing chilly wind, the inexhaustible death qi, the gloomy beastly roars one after another drifting off into the sky along with the continuous shaking of the ground all served to create an incomparably horrifying atmosphere that even sent Chen Xiang into jitters. Come then. Father's azure dragon slaughtering devil blade is not something to be trifled with. As Chen Xiang clasped the blade's hilt, the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade suddenly flashed with an azure aura. Moreover, it slightly trembled as if it was excited. Feeling an intention for battle coming from the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, Chen Xiang's blood started seething. The azure dragon slaughtering devil blade's mission was precisely to slaughter devils, as can be seen by its Ti. In battle, it could give Chen Xiang even more power in order to cut demons and extinguish devils. Chapter 249 Priest. Chapter 249 Priest. The trees in front of Chen Xiang were being torn down one by one with tumbling stones and sand flying around everywhere. The very earth shook. It was as if tens of thousands of horses were galloping towards him. However, it was not horses but rather devil beasts, far larger than any horse. From its howl, Chen Xiang could tell it was a very large wolf-type devil beast. Behind Chen Xiang's back, a large bundle of flames suddenly emerged. It formed into a huge pair of wings across his back, making his figure appear like a monstrous fire bird. Chen Xiang had released the vermilion bird firewing. The flame's temperature was so high that all the nearby trees spontaneously combusted as a raging forest fire spread everywhere. The sudden sea of flame combined with the billowing smoke from a faraway place was a spectacular scene to behold. The wings on Chen Xiang's back became larger and larger. Currently, Chen Xiang had released all of his vermilion bird true qi. He was preparing to use these wings to meet the impact of those hundreds of thousands of devil beasts charging towards him. If he wanted to escape, that would have been simple. But he could not escape, otherwise these devil beasts would trample over his companions behind him. As Chen Xiang's body was overshadowed by the billowing pillars of flame, he stared at the oncoming wave of devil beasts. Blue veins bulged as he clenched his fists, and along with an insane howl, he moved those 100 zhang-long firewings. With a single flap of those huge wings of flame, a fierce wind erupted as the surroundings were burned to the ground. The stones and soil on the ground turned red-hot from the intense heat, and the surroundings were covered in raging flames. With that single flap of those huge wings, everything in front of them were swept away. The dim wasteland had been illuminated in a fiery red light. The originally quaking ground settled down, only to be replaced by miserable beastly roars. After Chen Xiang whipped those huge, vermilion bird firewings together, an incomparably scorching hot chi wave was produced, followed by the instant incineration of everything in its path. The entire stampede of devil beasts were submerged in flames. These were flames released by someone possessing the heavenly sun fire spirit. Extremely young and unbending, these type of flames were unbearable to evil creatures, innately suppressing them. As long as they touched these flames, an excruciating pain would spread throughout their whole body as each cell was burned into ashes. For them, these were the flames from the afterlife, judgment flames specialized in punis. Hi+ing evil. Just a short span of time said, and those huge firewings on Chen Xiang's back had already disappeared. His whole body was drenched in sweat, even though he was the one who used the technique. He still felt the scorching heat from all the flames he had released. The environment in front of him was still burning with bellowing flames, and those devil beasts were struggling. It was like a scene of eternal damnation from the scorching punishments of Chen Xiang ate some dawn for restoring true qi. Holding the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, he entered the sea of flames, which all avoided him like they had a collective conscience to avoid burning him. After entering the sea of fire, Chen Xiang would brandish his blade and behead any struggling devil beasts in his path. The flames had burned for so long, yet a few devil beasts still struggled to stay alive. Their endurance was extraordinary. These were all the larger black and red wolves, far stronger than the ones Chen Xiang had encountered before. He speculated that these wolves still had the ability to rapidly reproduce after turning into devil beasts, and were also very strong, otherwise there would not be so many of them. Chen Xiang walked in the direction of the loudest roar. As a monstrous giant black wolf struggling, rolling and howling as it was burned by flames came into his view. Its powerful limbs were being slowly incinerated by the flames, causing it unable to stand. It seems that my flame grew along with my cultivation. Could actually burn this kind of big beast. Chen Xiang slightly smiled before he slashed his azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, cutting that humongous wolf in half with a powerful azure chi. In the sea of fire, even Chen Xiang didn't know how many wolves he had beheaded. He only knew that the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade was still not completely satisfied. Although he was tightly clasping the blade was still slightly trembling. From the contact between the blade and his hand, Chen Xiang could feel the soaring battle thirst from the blade. "There is a powerful guy in the vicinity," Long Shui shouted. "The sky is also covered in a very evil aura, one filled with violence and blood. It seems a powerful guy is waiting for you up ahead. He should be the strongest opponent you have met since you entered this wasteland." Chen Xiang turned serious as he swallowed a true elemental dan, quickly adjusting his state. He wanted to be in peak condition to face this upcoming powerful threat. Pious. Sing through the sea of flames, the world around Chen Xiang suddenly quieted down. Before long, all those miserable howls had already disappeared, as those wolves had all been beheaded by Chen Xiang. To be precise, many more were burned to death by the flames. Smoke was still blowing from that severely burnt forest. A fiery light pierced the sky, brightly illuminating the wasteland. However, the southern wasteland was not hot at all. In fact, it had turned even a little bit colder. The chilly winds became more dense. The devil chi turned even more tyrannical. It was very strange. Chen Xiang carried the huge blade on his shoulder. With the azure dragon making its battle intentions clear, H.I. plus mirroring in a cold and solemn aura on the blade body, along with the constantly overflow of an imposing manner filled with a majestic aura. Combined, this made Chen Xiang look like he was an evil devil terminator. Chen Xiang halted his steps and took in mouthful of air. Suddenly, a man appeared in front of Chen Xiang. This man had a very skinny build, with all his limbs were completely covered in white cloth. His face was very dark, very cold, like that of a dead man. However, red light could be seen from the pupil of his eyes, making others feel strange. In his hand was a very long bone spear. The snow-white bone spear was actually wrapped in mysterious black encryptions and appeared to be a good weapon. Feeling the intense devil chi spewing out from this man's body, Chen Xiang concluded this man must be a human devil, and also a very formidable who had retained its spirit wisdom. "What are you going to do at the altar?" that man asked. This voice was stiff as well as cold, devoid of any emotion whatsoever. It was very creepy. Facing such a man, the normal reaction would be becoming alert and maybe frightened, but Chen Xiang just grinningly smiled and said, "First of all, me going to the altar is none of your business. However, if you really want to know, I can tell you. I'm going there to take a piss." Chen Xiang's reply made that man's stiff face twitch. From those red eyes, a bloody light flashed through, making Chen Xiang momentarily smell thick death chi surrounding him with the iron smell of blood. "I'm that altar's guardian. I am also its priest. You have blasphemed our sacred altar. I will use your blood, your heart, your soul and offer it to the devil God." Although that man's voice was stiff, it sounded very excited. When he spoke of devil God, his high-pitched voice was full of respect and humility, completely in conflict with his earlier emotionless speech. Seeing this, Chen Xiang was somewhat surprised. He sneered and said, "I'd like to see if you even have the ability to stop me." Just as Chen Xiang finished speaking, he saw a red light flash towards him. In that split second, he fiercely leaned his head to the side, just to see a small amount of his hair drifting away in the cold bitter wind. At that very moment, the long bone spear with many spirit patterns was resting on the side of his sheik. Feeling the cold chi gust, pulsing out from the bone spear, a chill ran through Chen Xiang's back. Chapter 250, Averting Crisis. Chapter 250, Averting Crisis. The original snow-white bone spear was bathing in a crimson light, as if it was suddenly bleeding, looking very peculiar. After missing his thrust, the priest didn't continue with the second thrust. Instead, he received the bone spear back and retreated a few steps. Both of his hands were holding the bone spear tightly as he raised it in the sky. With a loud shout, a huge black whirlpool suddenly appeared in the sky, and all the devil chi of the southern wasteland suddenly surged over his head. Quickly stop this guy, although I don't know why he can suddenly gather such strength. If you allowed him to succeed, you might be in trouble. Su Meiyao hastily shouted. This guy seems to be communicating with the devil domain. The spell he is chanting is from the ancient scriptures during the immemorial time of the devil domain, which only a few people can understand. It seems he is really a priest. Bai Yu said. Chen Xiang's dantian sank. The Tai Chi Yin and Yang diagram started to revolve insanely as the true Qi in the 5 divine beast forms fiercely surged out. Then they fused together in his dantian, transforming into the universe true Qi. With the infusion of such vigorous true Qi into the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, its weight insanely rose. However, Chen Xiang didn't feel any sort of change. He only felt that with this blade, he could cut everything in the world. Chen Xiang had no idea what the priest was doing, but he knew that at the moment the guy was doing something very terrible. If he let him succeed, the Chenwu mainland would certainly be in danger. The continuously trembling azure dragon slaughtering devil blade suddenly calmed down as Chen Xiang yelled, "You fiend, go to Hell!" While speaking, the giant blade suddenly flashed as an immense righteous aura, followed by an azure light, burst forth. Afterwards, a dragon roar filled with majesty spread through all directions. At this moment, Chen Xiang also felt a very strong power in the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade. He was already aware that he himself knew little about this blade. The strength hidden in this blade was very vast, and today, he came to know that within the blade, there was actually a kind of righteous aura, which was mostly fatal for depraved demon or devils. Chen Xiang jumped over, with each step as fierce as a dragon and a tiger, providing him an immense strength. He brandished his blade and cross-chopped towards that bone spear raised towards the sky. At that very moment when the giant blade slashed over, a dragon roar resounded in all directions, and the righteous aura broke through that black whirlpool high in the sky. The land was as if it had a dragon who was waking up, and followed by that melodious high-pitched dragon roar, the land fiercely shook. Boom! High in the sky, numerous azure and red lightning suddenly flashed, as a fissure presented itself in those thick dark clouds. This fissure was the result of the collision of powerful qis that came from 2 different sources, and it was as though it was splitting the sky, bring about a spectacular view. The huge black whirlpool above the priest's head disappeared, and only the intertwining azure and red intertwining was left. While various sounds were echoing in the southern wasteland, it took a while before the land slowly calmed down, and after the echo disappeared, the southern wasteland once again fell into a death-like silence. That fire sea behind Chen Xiang was also blown away from the impact, and in all around these 2 men, only a flat piece of land was left. One must know that just a few moments ago, the now flat land was all filled with trees and hills. Chen Xiang's hands were somewhat numb. He didn't expect that the bone spear would actually have such a strong power. He not only failed in cutting down the bone spear, his 5 zhang and 6 fu were also shaken up and squeezed together. But at the very least, he was still successful in preventing the dangerous task the priest was doing. The priest furiously looked at Chen Xiang. From his mouth, black blood flowed out as black qi appeared in those glittering red eyes of his. Red lightning wound around his white bone spear as his rage turned into devil qi, surging forth from his body. You are actually capable of preventing me from accepting the leftover strength of the devil qi. Oh, D here. You made me miss the sole opportunity granted by the devil qi. Oh, D. I'll make you wish you would rather die than live. The priest's voice was cold. It was filled with bitter resentment, as if coming from the fiends of Hell itself. Chen Xiang, in his heart, was secretly shocked. Accepting the leftover strength of a devil qi Rod? Wouldn't it be most of the devil qi in the southern wasteland? That would be rather terrifying. Sister Yuyu, where the Hell did this guy come from? That thing in his hand is very terrifying. It is same as my azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, and I was not able to cut that thing. Chen Xiang hastily asked. Ancient devil qi, Od, they are the strongest cultivator in the devil domain. During the great battle of the three realms, the ancient devil God would leave behind this kind of place, along with an altar and a priest nurtured by the devil qi. Once defeated, as long as the priest and the altar is still there, it is possible for them to return to the devil domain through the altar, or receive the ancient devil God's instruction from the devil domain. In short, it is a method for the majority of the devils to be reborn after death. Of course, after the altars around the world were found, they were all immediately destroyed. In some worlds, the residents are simply not aware of them. But because majority of the ancient battlefield are all sealed, nothing will really happen to them. Bai Yuyu readily described, and unlike her usual demeanor, she was rather talkative at the moment. Chen Xiang, in his heart, cursed the devil path guys. They actually knew such a dangerous thing, and they even planned to let the devil creatures in here once again see the light. The devil path sects should have obtained some records, however. The records they received are not very comprehensive. They perhaps don't even know what exactly is in this place. Bai Yuyu said. Chen Xiang suddenly suspected Bai Yuyu was a resident of the devil domain, otherwise, she wouldn't know these stuff in detail. Even Long Shui and Su Meiyao both didn't know about these things. The thing in his hand is very good, your blade wasn't even able to cut it. But even though it is somewhat evil, you must still obtain it. Long Shui said. Just as she finished speaking, the priest let out a strange howl as he fiercely thrusted the bone spear towards Chen Xiang. Before the bone spear even arrived, a sharp and powerful qi had already come over with xiao sound. It was like an invisible arrow piercing the air. Chen Xiang reacted a bit slowly, and a bloodstain was left behind by the powerful qi on his cheek. However, he still dodged the bone spear. At the moment the bone spear's attack arrived, although there was not much large movements, Chen Xiang could still sense the power contained inside it. If he was stabbed, the consequence would be simply unimaginable. The priest had dedicated himself in stabbing Chen Xiang's head. Realizing this point, Chen Xiang finally realized his current predicament. The bone spear was not only incomparably hard, it also had a very special effect. To be precise, it could, in the blink of an eye, gather a large amount of power at its tip. Once it was thrust, that power from the tip would burst out. If a thrust was weak and missed the target, the power would then immediately return back to its user, thereby decreasing the consumption to the minimum. Chen Xiang was attacked twice, and during those times, he had carefully paid attention to the power flow in the bone spear. That was why he could speculate this. It was indeed not a bad weapon. He had the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, but it would be nice to have another powerful weapon, though the bone spear didn't seem to have anything righteous about it. This guy is just a one-trick pony. He only knows how to use that thing to stab you. Maybe he doesn't even know any other devil technique. Long Shui said. Just as she finished speaking, she immediately knew that she was wrong, because the priest stretched his 5 fingers apart, and in the blink of an eye, it transformed into a huge skeleton claw. The huge skeleton claw whisked towards Chen Xiang, with BLOODY red aura winding around it. As it got closer to Chen Xiang, dark cold devil chi shot out towards all directions. Chen Xiang knew that if he was hit, then his head would certainly be torn in half. That huge skeleton claw hastily struck towards Chen Xiang, however, when he was hit, Chen Xiang's figure burst into mist. It was a virtual image created from mist. Suddenly, Chen Xiang appeared behind the priest. With both of his hands clasping the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, which was infused vigorous and firm true chi, he very quietly slashed towards the priest from behind. Chapter 251 Penetrating Heart Devil Eye. Chapter 251 Penetrating Heart Devil Eye. When Chen Xiang saw his own giant blade about to cut the priest into two, he felt a sudden piercing pain in his eyes. God knows how, but the priest's hand had suddenly twisted behind his back and blocked Chen Xiang's blade strike with the bone spear. At the same time, a fierce impact came from the bone spear and traveled through the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade to Chen Xiang's wrist, which almost made him lose his grip on the blade. The priest blocking this attack was no small matter. It was totally out of Chen Xiang's expectations and caused him to be incomparably surprised. One must know that strike of his was carrying hundreds of thousands of genes, plus the bizarre power of azure dragon slaughtering devil blade behind it. For all devil path fiends, it would surely have been a fatal blow, yet it had just been blocked by such a thin-looking bone spear. While Chen Xiang was still in shock, the priest fiercely turned around and once again sent a huge skeleton claw over, enveloping Chen Xiang. This attack was filled with a thick stench of blood, a noxious aura overflowed, unleashed ing a primal terror present in every human soul. Seeing that claw, Chen Xiang subconsciously reached out to detain the priest's wrist. A thin true chi circulated in Chen Xiang's 5 fingers, which contained a very strong destructive force. This was the profound aura finger. Most things pinched by it would be easily mashed like tofu. This time around, Chen Xiang spent a very condensed amount of true chi to cast it compared to past occasions. It was a lot more formidable. After gripping the priest's wrist, he vigorously squeezed. However, things didn't go as he had expected. His 5 fingers indeed sunk into the flesh of priest's wrist, but when it was about to reach the bones, Chen Xiang felt a surge of power that resisted the profound aura finger's special destructive force. At the same time, the bone spear in the priest's hand thrust over. A desolate red light thrusted straight at Chen Xiang's chest. The priest's face was filled with pride along with a fierce-looking smile. He and Chen Xiang were not far away, there was simply nowhere to run. Chen Xiang was once again clawed by the priest, but this time it was simply too late to dodge the attack. The bone spear stabbed into Chen Xiang's chest, but it did not go any further. A strong and tyrannical shock wave erupted, ing Chen Xiang 100 steps away from the source of the impact. Chen Xiang took in a small mouthful of air. If not for blocking the blow with the black tortoise adamantal armor a moment ago, perhaps his heart would have just been pierced through by that long bone spear. The black tortoise adamantal armor was the God's armor from the ancient times. One could say it was simply indestructible. Not only would it not allow any blade or spear or any weapon whatsoever to harm its user physically, it could also dissipate half of the impact force. This guy is far stronger than you could barely keep up with his speed. How about you use my power? Long Shui asked. At this moment there is no need. Your power needs to be left for the most crucial moment. We still haven't reached that point. Chen Xiang firmly rejected Long Shui's assistance. As the priest saw Chen Xiang still standing there as good as before, he could not understand why he could not even harm as much as his opponent's hair despite putting all his strength behind the attack. From Chen Xiang's body, water vapors suddenly surged out just before few thick water vines suddenly emerged under the priest's feet, tightly binding him in place. Chen Xiang released this water vine by using the majority of his black tortoise true qi and divine sense. At this very moment, Chen Xiang's figure instantly appeared in front of the priest. He had casted the water vine in order to seize this chance. The priest had simply been too quick. If Chen Xiang attacked head-on, it would be either dodged or blocked. Only this way would he have the opportunity to attack. The priest was very calm, even if he could not move. He firmly stood there and raised the bone spear, thrusting towards Chen Xiang. He had already expected this to happen, so at the very same moment the bone spear's thrust arrived, many scales suddenly emerged out from his palm, directly grabbing that thrusting bone spear. At the same time, he raised the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade. The Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade shook. Qi fluctuations swept through all four directions, setting off bursts of fierce wind one after another. Dense clouds rolled high in the sky, azure lightning flashed one after another, followed by rolling thunder. At this moment there was a high sea wave carrying the unstoppable momentum behind Chen Xiang, who was currently standing on the crest of the sea wave. The insane strength form the wave slammed down onto his giant blade. The bone spear was being tightly gripped by Chen Xiang, even though his palm was covered in the scales of black tortoise adamantal armor. He could still feel the violent power in the bone spear. So long as he slacked off even a little bit, his palm would be burst opened. That being said, he didn't need to persist for too long, because his giant blade was already slamming down on the priest. Wave Strike, it was one of the moves in the Dragon Slayer's 7 killing cut. Combined with the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade and the Azure Dragon True Qi, it had turned into an even more terrifying blow. Once this move was used, it was like a giant tsunami that came out of nowhere, filled with the destructive power of nature that could wreck the earth. As the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade hacked down, the priest gave a mournful blood-curdling, hair-raising scream. The ground itself went up and down like a sea from the downward cleaving motion of Chen Xiang's blade. Chen Xiang originally wanted to hack the priest in two, however. A strange power prevented him from doing so and instead made his strike miss his target, merely cutting off the priest's arm that held the bone spear. Nevertheless, Chen Xiang still felt extremely excited. He vigorously strummed the bone spear, and quickly threw off the arm clasping it, before throwing the bone spear into his storage pouch. This guy's weak point is his heart. If you had not missed, your blade could have cut through his heart. Bai Yu suddenly said. Chen Xiang's eyes lit up, but at this time, the priest let out a hideous scream, breaking his foot free from the water vine, before swooping towards Chen Xiang. What made Chen Xiang feel surprised was that the arm that had just been cut off a moment ago actually flew on its own, sticking itself at the same place where it was cut off. Soon fusing back together, Chen Xiang was surprised yet again as he hacked out a few blade strikes again and again. Each blade blow set off fierce winds. The powerful qi spewed out from the giant blade and bombarded the priest's body, giving off thunderous explosions. However, from the beginning to the end, the priest was unshakable from the lightning strikes, as if the attacks didn't cause any harm to him. In just a few moments, Chen Xiang had hacked out several powerful strikes, yet the priest still arrived in front of Chen Xiang. When he was about to hack down again, the priest suddenly grabbed the Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade's tip, in the very same way Chen Xiang had grabbed the bone spear a few moments ago. Chen Xiang found his blade being grabbed with a deathly grip. He simply couldn't move. This kind of power made him feel afraid. He knew he had angered the priest. After all, he was a devil that had been bred by the rich devil qi in here for many years. If Chen Xiang could truly strike the priest, perhaps his Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade would have already cut the priest into two. The Azure Dragon Slaughtering Devil Blade was specially forged for dealing with fiends, but Chen Xiang could not do anything to the priest. From this, it was evident how wide the gap between their strength was. The priest's arm suddenly turned into a huge skeletal claw, braving with endless desolate death qi, even denser than before. The devil chi of the southern wasteland insanely converged into the priest's body as he constantly grew stronger. Seeing the skeletal claw about to grab him, Chun Xiang still remained reluctant to let go of the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade. He knew the instant he did so, it would be SNATC head. At this critical moment, a fierce flash ran through Chun Xiang's eyes, as two red beams shot out, penetrating the priest's heart. The torrential imposing manner of the priest suddenly quivered, and the originally gathering terrifying power immediately dissipated, drifting into the sky. Chun Xiang was elated in his heart. He retreated a few steps and still did not dare to approach that powerful guy again. Now he knew the priest was very strange. With an emotional outburst the priest's power could become much higher, and he could even quickly engulf the inexhaustible devil chi around him to elevate his own strength. The priest's weak point was truly his heart. However, his body was very strong, and even the powerful chi burst out from several blade strikes could not harm him. That being said, the penetrating heart devil eye easily pierced through his chest. Chapter 252, Devil Soul. Chapter 252, Devil Soul. While holding his chest, the red light disappeared from his pupil and was replaced by the azure pupil filled with dismay. The priest retreated and spoke with a look of disbelief. How do you know this supreme sacred technique? Impossible, you're from the righteous sect, moreover, you are fighting against us, impossible. He even said impossible a good several times, before his body gradually turned black and transformed into black mist, drifting into the air. Chun Xiang heaved a sigh. What made him suspicious was the sacred technique from priest's mouth. Sister Yu. This guy spoke of sacred technique, what's going on? Chun Xiang asked as he took out the long boned spear. At the moment it was snow white in color, Hi plus Ning like white jade bone, wrapped in black spirit patterns. It appeared incomparably bizarre and evil, giving off a peculiar charm. Don't ask too much. Just know that it is very formidable, that's enough. Bai Yu said. She didn't want to tell him too much. Dear brother, the reason why you cannot use the devil techniques in front of others is also because of this very reason. Senior sister already violated the rules to teach you those powerful devil techniques. When you use them, you need to be careful, don't fail senior sister's expectations. Su Meiyao exhorted. Chun Xiang, in his heart, heaved a light sigh. In his mind Bai Yu's elegant face, carrying a strange charm, suddenly appeared. Very complex emotions surged in his heart. He knew Bai Yu definitely had a lot of secrets, and Su Meiyao was also the same. However, it was Bai Yu who worried him the most because she cultivated in the ruthless devil technique. It could make one not recognize their own friends and relatives, eventually leading to their own demise. If this devil technique was dispersed, then she would turn into a cripple. What Chun Xiang was certain of was Bai Yu was an important figure in the devil domain. Now she was being hunted down by many strong martial artists, and once she dispersed her ruthless devil technique, then she would be devoid of any strength to resist. Because of this, he knew that he must redouble his effort to elevate his strength, and become a lot more powerful in order to protect this cold but warm on the inside woman. The reason why he could arrive this step was all because of his encounter with Bai Yu and Su Meiyao, these two peerless beauties. To help them recover their pinnacle strength, he still has a long way to go. The powerful priest, because of suffering the sudden attack of the penetrating heart devil eyes, didn't have the chance to dodge as his heart was struck by Chun Xiang, causing him to eventually die. Now there was no one to halt Chun Xiang's steps to the altar again. He should immediately destroy the altar in order to stop the incoming devastating disaster of the Chenwu mainland. The devil techniques I taught you is the same as those dragon-slaying divine martial techniques. The dragon-slaying divine martial techniques were created by the dragon family in order to deal with the dragons, and the devil techniques are also the same, they were created to deal with the powerful devils of the devil domain. You need to make good use of them. Bai Yu said. Chen Xiang walked enough for half an hour, before he saw a high platform filled with rich devil qi. Above, there was a very hideous-looking huge black figure, which appeared very frightening. After arriving here, he sensed a power surging into his body, giving him a headache. He retreated a few steps, however, the excruciating pain still rampaged in his mind while he let out low-spirited howls. "What is going on?" Chen Xiang said while moaning. "There is a very powerful divine sense intruding into your mind," Long Shui replied in a serious tone. Chen Xiang was astonished. He hastily stepped back, and at this time, he suddenly heard a grim laughter in his mind. "Ha ha, brat, you're too tender! I'll soon be able to control you and make you go to your companions and bring them here. Although the priest is dead, as long as there are enough humans, the altar could still be opened. Don't you want to destroy the altar, ha ha?" That voice hideously laughed. Chen Xiang realized that it was this guy who had been controlling the devil beasts and human devils to continually attack them. Although he was sealed, his divine sense was nevertheless so powerful, and it still could cause him this kind of harm. Chen Xiang felt that he was losing control of his body. A violent consciousness surged onto his mind, making him think only of killing. He knew it was all due to that guy's divine sense. This guy is someone with a devil soul, which is equivalent to the divine soul. Among the devil path, it is very rare, and many times rarer than those of the righteous path. Su Meiyao exclaimed, however, she was not surprised. On the contrary, she was a bit excited. Chen Xiang knew Su Meiyao and the others definitely had some way, however. Why did they not tell him yet something he could not figure out? "Wait," Bai Yuyu said in a light tone. There was a slight trace of gentleness in her voice, making Chen Xiang's heart feel warmed, easing down the pain a lot at the same time. However, that consciousness was too strong, and he already could not control his body. At the moment, his body was running very fast. "Chen Xiang, use the engulfing devil skill to engulf this guy, quick!" Bai Yuyu suddenly shouted, causing Chen Xiang, who was in pain, to become shocked. Chen Xiang hastily operated the devil technique. Although it was not the true QI, the engulfing principle remained the same. The divine sense which entered his body began to gradually weaken. Through the engulfing devil skill, it surged into his consciousness. Although it was the divine sense of a devil path martial artist, it was still nonetheless pure. As long as one cultivated SHI plus 2, the divine sense they needed was pure. Unconsciously, Chen Xiang gradually regained control of his body. He sat cross-legged down on the ground and began engulfing in madness. At this time, he could hear that sound from before, but now it was shouting in fear. "This is engulfing devil skill, how can you know this?" No, let me off, I'll be your slave." Hearing this sound, Chen Xiang engulfed even more fiercely as the divine soul in his consciousness quickly started growing. His divine had been improving twice as much. That very pure divine sense, after entering his consciousness, was directly refined as he operated the 9-turn Dragon God technique, and turned into his own divine sense. UBASTAR. D would like to occupy father's body, now it is too late for you to regret. Chen Xiang hideously laughed and said. He now understood why Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu didn't told him in advance that he could engulf the divine sense a while ago. Otherwise he would exercise his skills to reduce the pain, and by that time, the divine sense would be scared off, which would do more harm than good. Although he was not aware of his actions, he had invited the devil soul to his consciousness, and this made it easier for him to trap and engulf him. He released his own divine sense, and in a steady stream, he engulfed the power of the devil soul. This guy is still inexperienced, but it was unexpected that while he was sealed, he was still able to cultivate his divine soul. However, you still cheaply took advantage. Long Shui mischievously laughed and said. She knew how formidable Chen Xiang's engulfing devil skill was. That was why from the beginning she was not worried. The devil who was being engulfed was still unceasingly screaming, as if begging for mercy. However, Chen Xiang kept on engulfing. He planned to finish him off. In the Devil Path world, the divine soul is called the Devil Soul, but equally it was also called Shi plus N. In the Devil domain it was even rarer, and in the righteous world only the dragons could cultivate in Shi plus N. It was seldom seen in humankind, but still there were some. Chen Xiang cultivated the divine soul to his utmost, and he only lacked a large amount of energy. Before, he had eaten the elemental spirit Dan, which allowed him to soar by leaps and bounds, and now that he engulfed a young devil soul, it would allow him to advance even more faster. Bit by bit, time passed. Those cries became increasingly weaker. With regards to the devil, Chen Xiang simply would not keep his hand. Furthermore, a while ago, the devil wanted to control him to make him open the altar. Chapter 253 Destruction of the Altar. Chapter 253 Destruction of the Altar. When Chen Xiang opened his eyes, the altar in front of him was even more clearer. After the devil's divine soul was engulfed by Chen Xiang, that devil was long dead because that devil's soul was even pulled out of his body. Chen Xiang closed his eyes, sank into his consciousness and looked at the divine soul. He found it was already 10 years old, twice as big as before. He could feel his own divine sense rose sharply by many times, and he could clearly sense everything all around him. Good, your divine soul has finally passed through the infant stage and the early childhood stage and entered the adolescent stage. The adolescent stage is divided into 10 layers, and by the time your divine soul looked like 20 years old, you'll cross the adolescent stage. You still need to work a lot, Long Shui said. Chen Xiang laughed and said, so now can I learn more things? Little dragon, what stage is your divine soul at? Isn't your divine soul like a little brat? Long Shui tenderly laughed and said, my divine soul is a great beauty. However, I just came out of my egg. Whenever I take the human form, I could only have this appearance. Chen Xiang's mouth slightly twitched. He already knew that the appearance of this little greedy dragon was only a disguise. Originally, she was a very old woman. Regarding her pretending to be a lovely and tender child, he very much held it in contempt. Wait till you are out of here, I'll pass you some more spiritual power, Long Shui said. Chen Xiang touched his chin and said with a wicked smile, little girl, I want to see your true appearance. I will not show you. Long Shui tenderly snorted and said, you are too bad, wait till I think it's time, only then will I let you see it, or wait till my body grows up. Chen Xiang stretched his exhausted waist and walked to the front of altar. The altar had a staircase with many steps. Chen Xiang estimated that it had about thousands or so. At the top, there was very big platform with a large column erected at each of its corner. Each column was carved with many spirit patterns, and in the center of the platform there was a huge hideous statue, similar to a devil. The entire altar looked gloomy, daunting and magnificent under dim light. It gave off a kind of strange feeling, making anyone who see it to become fearful. This is one big altar. In those days, didn't those righteous martial artists find it? Chen Xiang looked at the magnificent altar in front and doubtfully spoke. The altar was only built later. It was built by the priest by controlling some human devils and devil beasts. Bai Yu explained. Chen Xiang slightly sucked in a mouthful of air. In order to completely destroy the altar, he had to cast the heavenly dragon seal. Devil Path BASTARDS. Your plan ends here. A sliver of sneer appeared on Chen Xiang's mouth, before he began releasing a large amount of true qi. Through the chanting formula of the spiritual power, and using the bizarre mana, his true qi was mobilized. He instantly transported a large amount of true qi above the altar. From all around, true qi violently surged over. Although the majority of true qi here was devil qi, most of it was still constant toot of spirit qi. Furthermore, the energy inside it was a lot more denser than spirit qi. Not only was it too tyrannical, it didn't affect Chen Xiang while casting the heavenly dragon seal. He had casted once before in this place, and it was a lot stronger than he had imagined. Now his divine soul had grown a lot, and he was also in the 5th level of the true martial realm, so his mana was denser by a wide margin. This caused the amount of devil qi absorbed to increase. High in the sky, within the radius of hundreds of li, billowing black clouds emerged as a large amount of devil qi violently surged over to Chen Xiang's location. Chen Xiang wanted to cast the powerful heavenly dragon seal in order to thoroughly destroy the altar. The righteous sect disciples in the periphery all looked at the sky. At the moment, the atmosphere was very depressing, even if separated by a wide distance. They all could sense the bursts of oppressing pressure coming from the altar one after another. They still didn't know what happened, but during this period, they rarely encountered any Civ devil beasts attack. On Chen Xiang's back, a pair of huge firewings appeared, before he flew into the sky, far away from the altar. As he clenched his fists, blue veins bulged out on his entire arms, while his strong body braved the steaming true qi. He kept on chanting the spell increasingly quicker. His kept on chanting paragraphs without stopping, continuously gathering the spirit qi. The true qi and mana in his body insanely used his physical strength and consciousness. He was exhausting himself rather quickly. Suddenly, the land slightly trembled. To be precise, it was the entire southern wasteland which trembled, and even if one was outside the southern wasteland, they could still sense it. What was even more frightening was, after the trembling, rounds after rounds of mournful wailings reverberated, as if wild shrieks and howls were coming from Hell itself. It was very scary. The sealed devils in the southern wasteland are all lamenting. Bai Yu sneered and said, "Once the altar is destroyed, they would never rise ever." "Why?" Chen Xiang asked at this moment. He was still gathering power. If the 3 realms intersect, the devil domain's people can arrive. Can't they save them? They cannot. The altar and the souls of these devils are linked together. Once the altar is destroyed, then it means their soul will also be destroyed. Their soul was bound with the altar during its establishment. Moreover, the altar also need their strength. However, some guys are still there who did not establish soul relations with the altar. Bai Yu said. The southern wasteland seemed to have fallen into Hell. Desolate screaming, continuous quaking, and billowing dark clouds were all over the sky as devil qi insanely surged towards Chen Xiang's direction. This caused the righteous sect's disciples to become very anxious. Almost. Chen Xiang took in a long deep breath and once again started chanting another paragraph of the spell. Suddenly, a huge S of black qi transformed into a huge hideous black dragon claw on top of the altar. This dragon claw was rather enormous, not to mention a single altar. Even if there were 10 altars, it would envelop them all. Looking from far away, it was as big as a city. Chen Xiang frowned tightly. He felt his divine sense was disappearing very quickly. All the gathered mana was released out, before that black dragon claw had come into existence. Even scales were present around it, and its sharp claws could not be more clearer, like a true dragon claw. Destroy. Heavenly Dragon Seal, release. Chen Xiang shouted as the huge black dragon claw fiercely took a dive. At the same time, a burst of pressure accompanied with explosions spread in all directions, blowing Chen Xiang into continuous retreat. The giant claw pressed upon the altar as the group of devils suddenly burst into desolate and mournful wailings. At the same time, an earth-shaking explosion burst out. After the altar was struck by the huge heavenly dragon seal, it was as though the land, which was like a calm lake, was suddenly hit by a stone, sending out rounds after rounds of ripples. However, instead of water, there were countless dust and stones accompanied with storm blew towards the endless horizons. Wherever it went, the ground was raised, and pieces after pieces of forests, whether it was a large or small mountain, were all torn into pieces from the powerful shock wave. Explosions rang non-stop, as if the sky itself was falling down, and it was already the end of the world. Chen Xiang's true qi and divine sense were almost exhausted. Only a few vermilion bird true qi was supporting him in releasing those powerful fire wings, letting him float in the air. But because of the fierce winds, he still tumbled around into a confused and disoriented state. Is the altar destroyed? Chen Xiang could not see anything. His body, along with some debris, were blown into the sky by that fierce wind. All around was all dark fragments of stones and wooden splinters. He also had not expected that the heavenly dragon seal would actually be so powerful. Destroyed. All of this was caused by the heavenly dragon seal and the altar. The altar had a very vast power in it, and after it burst open, it turned out this way, Long Shui said. Chen Xiang also thought it was more reasonable, otherwise, his attack would be comparable to a Nirvana realm martial artist's attack. One should know that no matter how formidable he was at the moment, he could still not be compared with Nirvana realm martial artists anyway. As long as any Nirvana realm martial artist wished, they could press him to death with just one finger.